meeting to order, please. I would like to ask Joshua Eli to come forward. Joshua is one of our young Marines, and he's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Joshua. Our invocation, please remain standing. Pastor Todd Forrest is here from the Fountain Hills Christian Center.
Shall we pray? Lord, we thank you for giving us another day to live on this earth, to serve you. And Lord, I thank you for our community and the leadership that we have in place here. Lord, guide our meeting, the decisions, the influence, the discussions this evening. And Lord, I thank you for this great town that you have allowed us to be part of, and for what you are doing and the peace you have given to us. And Lord, I thank you for our officers, our workers that keep our town safe. And Lord, we pause for a moment to also pray for those that are grieving this day in Las Vegas. Lord, those that have hurt so badly and have had to go through loss. We pray, Lord, for them. For we are all one people under one God in this great nation, Lord. And I pray that you just guide our proceedings this evening. In your name, Lord Jesus, amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. Please be seated. Roll call, please, Bev.
Mayor Kavanaugh,
Here.
Vice Mayor Magazine,
Here.
Councilmember DePorter,
Here.
Councilmember Yates,
Present.
Councilmember Brown,
Here.
Councilmember Toles,
Here.
Councilmember Leger.
I have 5 proclamations today. It's a busy day for proclamations, but each is very important in its own right. So I hope you'll all listen to them and be patient with them as I read them. And the first I'm going to start off is Make a Difference Day, our very own here in Fountain Hills. Whereas serious social problems concern our nation, state, and town and threaten our future, and whereas connecting with others and working together through volunteer service can bridge the differences that separate people and help solve serious problems and social problems. Whereas we, the American people and the residents of Fountain Hills, have a tradition of philanthropy and volunteerism. Whereas in 2016, almost 5 million people cared enough about their communities to volunteer on Make a Difference Day, accomplishing thousands of projects in hundreds of cities and towns. Whereas in our community, nonprofit organizations, schools, businesses, houses of worship, families, neighborhoods, and friends serve together to make a difference. And whereas 2017 makes the 9th year for Fountain Hills to demonstrate that is the small town with the big heart. Whereas the town of Fountain Hills supports a vibrant community to enrich the lives of our residents. Whereas I, Linda M. Kavanaugh, Mayor of the town of Fountain Hills, Arizona, do hereby proclaim October 28, 2017 as Make a Difference Day in Fountain Hills and urge all citizens to participate in volunteer projects as we work together to meet the needs of our neighbors. And it's not too late to sign up. October 28th, contact Heather Ware, our coordinator, and her team have been working very, very hard to put this together. So now all we need are a lot of volunteers to come out and help us. Our second proclamation is on Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Whereas home should be a place of warmth, unconditional love, tranquility, and security. And whereas for most of us, home and family can indeed be counted among our greatest blessings. And whereas tragically for many Americans, these are blessings that are tarnished by violence and fear. And whereas women, men, young children, and the elderly are all counted among the victims of domestic violence. Whereas physical injury and deaths occur and emotional scars are often permanent. And whereas law enforcement officials, shelters, hotline services, healthcare providers, the clergy, and concerned citizens are helping in the effort to end domestic violence. And whereas we must recognize the compassion and dedication of these volunteers and professionals, applaud their efforts, and increase public understanding of this important problem. And whereas the Town Council approved Resolution 2013-44 on August 15, 2013, expressing support for the Start by Believing campaign through the End Violence Against Women International Organization. Now therefore, I, Linda M. Cavanaugh, Mayor of the Town of Fountain Hills, Arizona, do hereby proclaim the month of October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Fountain Hills, and urge all citizens to observe this month by becoming aware of the tragedy of domestic violence and supporting community efforts in working towards its end. And Councilman Yates is our liaison on the Domestic Violence Board with GPEC and with MAG, right? Yes, ma'am. Sorry, I get the two of them mixed up sometimes. And so we've been working with him as our liaison to follow all the progress in the state and the county and to help these victims. And I think you have a report later on about that.
Yes, ma'am.
The next I have is Library Week. Oh, I see library people out there. Okay, we all love our library. Whereas Fountain Hills Friends of the Library raise money that enables our library to move from good to great, providing the resources for additional programming, much-needed equipment, support for children's summer reading, and special events throughout the year. And whereas the work of the Friends highlights on an ongoing basis the fact that our library is the cornerstone of the community, providing opportunities for all to engage in the joy of lifelong learning and connect with the thoughts and ideas of others from ages past to present. And whereas the Friends understand the critical importance of well-funded libraries and advocate to ensure that our library gets the resources it needs to provide a wide variety of services to all ages, including access to print and electronic materials, along with expert assistance in research, readers advisory, and children's services. And whereas the Friends' gift of their time and commitment to the library sets an example for all in how volunteerism leads to positive civic engagement and the betterment of our community. Now, therefore, I, Linda M. Cavanaugh, Mayor of the Town of Fountain Hills, Arizona, do hereby proclaim October 15th to the 21st, 2017 as Friends of the Library Week in the Town of Fountain Hills, and urge everyone to join the Friends of the Library as partners in making our library and community even better. And we have the official proclamation. We have a representative, Crystal Evinger. Come on up. Come on up. Along with, could, okay, but you can both come up so I can present this to you. How about that?
Yeah, he's over there.
All right. So over here, everyone likes to take the picture. And one of the ladies will hold up. Hold that. Hold that well.
Turn that forward just a little bit. There you go.
you like to use the podium? That would be great.
I will be brief because I know we have another presentation about the library. So I want to thank the mayor and town council for recognizing the Friends of the Fountain Hills Library, and as we recognize National Friends of Libraries Week, October 15th to 21st. There will be a table in the lobby with information and membership and some surprises too, so stop by the library lobby and see us. We are a volunteer group which funds and supports over 80% of programs and facilities of the library through membership dues, donations, and proceeds from our very popular bookshop. We make possible free star parties, front porch performances, twice a year, document shredding, that's November 11th this year, books for the homebound, author visits, children's programs. We are invested in Fountain Hills' future through four-year college scholarships and numerous youth activities. Please, all of you, join us by becoming a member. Libraries need friends to continue to support a love for reading. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And we'll be getting a presentation shortly. Soon I have to finish the rest of the proclamations. The next one is Cities and Towns Week. Whereas the citizens of the town of Fountain Hills rely on the town to experience a high quality of life in our community, and whereas cities and towns in Arizona work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to deliver vital city and town services such as fire, police, and emergency medical response to ensure safe communities. And whereas cities and towns in Arizona also provide services and programs that enhance the quality of life for residents such as parks, utilities, street maintenance, sanitation and recycling services, libraries, community centers, and recreational programs. And whereas it is important for the town of Fountain Hills to continue to provide the excellent delivery of services and programs for our citizens have come to expect in our community. And whereas it is one of the responsibilities of town officials to ensure open and accessible government through frequent communication with citizens using various avenues and means. And whereas through participation and cooperation, citizens, community leaders, local businesses, and municipal staff can work together to ensure that services provided by the town of Fountain Hills can remain exceptional elements of the quality of life of our community. And whereas I, Linda M. Kavanaugh, Mayor of the town of Fountain Hills, Arizona, do hereby proclaim that the town of Fountain Hills joins with the League of Arizona Cities and Towns and fellow municipalities across the state of Arizona in declaring October 15th to the 21st, 2017, Arizona Cities and Towns Week. All right, that one's for us. The next is Red Ribbon Week. Okay. Whereas alcohol and drug abuse in this nation have reached epidemic stages, and whereas it is imperative that visible, unified prevention education efforts by community members be launched to eliminate the demand for drugs. And whereas the East Valley Young Marines, the local unit of the United States Young Marines, is a youth education and service program for boys and girls that focuses on promoting the mental, moral, and physical development of its members, including character building, leadership, and encouraging a healthy, drug-free lifestyle. And whereas the Young Marines is the official youth program of the United States Marine Corps and is the focal point for the U.S. Marine Corps youth drug demand reduction efforts and is open to youth ages 8 through high school completion who are in good standing in their school. Whereas the National Red Ribbon Campaign and the East Valley Young Marine Program offer citizens the opportunity to demonstrate their commitment to drug-free lifestyles, no use of illegal drugs, no illegal use of legal drugs. And whereas the East Valley Young Marines have earned the DoD's Fulcrum Shield Award and the DEA's Enrique Camarera Awards for their drug demand reduction efforts in the Phoenix metro area. And whereas the National Red Ribbon Campaign will be celebrated in every community in America during Red Ribbon Week, October 23rd to the 31st, 2017. And whereas business, government, parents, law enforcement, media, medical institutions, religious institutions, schools, senior citizens, service organizations, and youth will demonstrate their commitment to healthy, drug-free lifestyle by wearing and displaying red ribbons during this week-long campaign. And whereas the town of Fountain Hills further commits its resources to ensure the success of the Red Ribbon Campaign, whereas October 23rd to the 31st, 2017 has been designated National Red Ribbon Week, which encourages Americans to wear a red ribbon to show their support for a drug-free environment. Now therefore, I, Linda M. Kavanaugh, Mayor of the Town of Fountain Hills, do hereby proclaim October 23rd to the 31st, 2017 as Red Ribbon Week and encourage its citizens to participate in drug education activities not only during Red Ribbon Week but all year long, making a visible statement that we're strongly committed to a drug-free Fountain Hills. And we have 3 young Marines with us today, Joshua Eloy, Caleb Halliwell, and Ezra Hollywood. Could you come up, please? And we have an official proclamation to present to the young Marines on the behalf of the town. Come on over here. Thank you so much for coming. You look great in your uniforms. We got a lot of medals. Wow, chest full of medals. And you're getting there, huh? Did you want to come up and take a picture? You can do that, sure, come on. That's okay. Not that I'm shy or anything. Well, it's a great pleasure to have you here. Would either of you like to? Thanks.
Would you like me to speak to the board or the audience? Okay, so I'll speak to both. My name is Young Marine Master Sergeant Ely. I've been a part of the program for 8 years now, ever since I was very young. And I can tell you how much this program has really flourished in my life and many other youth that I've seen. It is a 501c3 nonprofit national organization that focuses on producing good moral character and citizenship through military heritage in young ones' lives, ages 8 to 18, I apologize. So the greatest thing is that this program has grown over many years. So we started in 1965, that was when our official charter began, and is gone from just merely 10 kids who have been in the program to now 250,000 members in the program across the nation. We have units in Japan, Hawaii, Guam, and every single state in the nation, and it's amazing through the message that we try to display. And one of the many things that our program really heavily supports, and it has been declared as our main focal point, is drug demand reduction. Spreading the message that drugs are bad and what drugs can do to your career, to your life, what abuse does, what are the consequences, and how you say no to them, how to deal with peer pressure, how to deal with society, and how they view drugs. Basically, teaching this education to the younger ones, we believe, will give them a better understanding how it is when they're older. I remember talking to those who, a 40-year-old man who was smoking marijuana for 12 years. He said, I never heard the message about dangers of smoking when I was young. You're very lucky to know that. And because of the Young Marine program, I've been able to do this. And thankfully, to the town of Fountain Hills and many other cities in Arizona, because of this proclamation to Red Ribbon Week, we're able to go through this week and give presentations to young ones about what Red Ribbon Week is. It's a ceremony of a memorial event for Enrique Camarena, a former DEA agent, and also spreading the message of DDR throughout the nation. And it's an amazing event. I thank you very much. Thank the town of Fountain Hills very much for giving this ability to spread the message throughout. Thank you.
Welcome.
I think we just found someone with politics in his future.
That's great. He's such a good speaker, huh? That's over. Okay, let's see. Where are we up to? We had an EDC meeting today, but I'm going to hold that off till the next meeting, so I didn't have time to take notes yet. I'm going to go to Councilman Yates, who has an update on GPEC.
Thank you. Actually, I'm going to do domestic violence first, if that's okay, Mayor.
Sure.
As the mayor mentioned, it is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. I have a council meeting this Thursday, so my full report will be for the next council meeting. Domestic Violence Awareness Month evolved from the Day of Unity held in October 1981 and conceived by the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence. The intent was to connect advocates across the nation who are working to end violence against women and their children. Now, domestic violence, it can stop, is the motto of Arizona Governor Doug Ducey, who has proclaimed this year's Domestic Violence Awareness Month. The Lighting Arizona Purple campaign was developed by the Governor's Commission. Its mission is to prevent violence against women and families and create awareness while providing resources for victims. Ducey and the Governor's Office of Youth, Family, Faith and Family Encouragement encourage all Arizona municipalities to participate in illuminating city and town halls in the color purple for the month of October. They anticipate 15 cities, and Fountain Hills is one of them. So I'm very proud of that Fountain Hills participate. And as you see, all of our folks up here either have purple, some form of purple, or at least a purple ribbon on in honor of Awareness Month. Moving on to GPEC, there's some fun things going on with Greater Phoenix Economic Council. Our new office space downtown is finished. Very high-tech, very open, inviting, collaborative virtual reality stations. The reason I bring that up is when we court companies and businesses to Phoenix and Arizona, this is the place where we meet them. And then once they come down there, we kind of divvy up where they should go or where they should look at. We had our financial reports audited, and they came across clean operations, strong internal controls, no adjusting entries needed. We have 10 new members of GPEC that are going to help support our endeavors. Phoenix just made the top 5 cities of best place to start a new business, and that's Dallas, Charlotte, Atlanta, Denver, and Phoenix. I tell you, Phoenix is on fire, folks. As many of you know, I'm in commercial real estate, and all my buildings are filling up, and it's amazing to see all the different kinds of companies that are coming to Phoenix. Without boring you on a lot of the fun stuff that I think is really neat, the biggest things to remember is some of our legacy industries, which are the driverless cars. It's closer than you think. It's not decades away. It's a few years. Wearables, and people already get it. It's from the Fitbit. Children, grandchildren wearing it. It tells their parents how their vitals are. Or if you have elderly parents or grandparents, same thing. Industry 4.0, that's where the Internet of Things. It's everything from knowing if your car needs its oil change to your house. The hot water tank blew up, all things of that. And then cybersecurity. What's really neat about all these 4 legacy industries is Fountain Hills can participate in these. You don't have to be on the corner of Main and Main anymore with technology. Some attributes of the modern economy is in the global initiative, again, are things that Fountain Hills can participate in. You need to have a strong, coordinated local leadership for economic development, modern infrastructure, a sense of place, and that global connectivity. I know that sounds like a big word, but the reality is, as long as you have an internet connection, Fountain Hills can be part of something bigger, and it's exciting to see how the economy is turning on. So with that, I'll give it back to you, Mayor.
Great, thank you. And now we have a presentation by the Fountain Hills Branch Library. Who's going to, Vicki Novak? All right, welcome, Vicki.
Yes, so thank you to Mayor Kavanaugh and the council for letting me speak and giving an update on what's going on with the library. Okay, so first of all, I wanted to just mention how our summer reading program this summer went. We had a great time with that. Our goals were to interrupt the summer slide. As you know, sometimes kids over the summer can lose reading skills, and we want to interrupt that summer slide by encouraging everyone of all ages to read 20 minutes a day. And so this was our goal. We also want to advance early literacy skills by encouraging parents to learn these skills, teach these skills to their kids. We also want to build home libraries, so everyone who read 20 minutes a day would end up with 1,000 reading minutes for the summer and would earn a free book. And we also want to emphasize the fun of reading. And we wanted to connect readers with community experiences. So we partnered with some organizations in the community, and people who were in the summer reading program were able to go out and do fun things with organizations like Fearless Kitty Rescue, the Maricopa County Sheriff's Department, the fire department. People could go on the Fitz Civic Center Trail, Paul's Ace Hardware, and the River of Time Museum. And by doing these activities, they could earn extra points in the summer reading program and earn digital badges that gave them more points in the program. So we saw a 35% increase in the number of participants in the summer reading program, and we saw 141 readers earn the final book prize this summer. And so you're seeing some pictures from our kickoff program, which was the Arizona Science Center, came out and did some activities for kids. One of the other programs that we're really proud of is our Teens Giving Back program. This is a program that's monthly during October through April, a 2-hour program where our teen council selects a local organization. They identify a need that the teens can fill, and then they plan and do a service project. So the big picture that you're seeing here, these are developmental hearts that the teens made for premature babies at Banner Desert Neonatal Intensive Care Unit. Then in the upper left corner, this is the one that they just did on September 30th, slipper sock cupcakes for cancer patients at Mayo Clinic. And then we have one coming up October 14th at 9 a.m. They're going to be making cat toys for Fearless Kitty Rescue, and we'll have an adoption event in front of the library. So we are really proud of our teens for doing this. It allows them to earn service learning hours for school, which is something that they need to do. They also get leadership experience. And the library actually got a 2017 NACO Award, National Association of Counties, for innovative programs in county government. And beyond that, the library was also selected for 100 Brilliant Ideas at Work. It was one of 100 programs in the nation for this program. So you can see a little inset picture there. This is our teen librarian, Heather Nelson, and the County Board of Supervisors at the NACO Award ceremony. Another program that we had this summer was our Food for Fines, July 7th through the 15th. People who had fines on their card, they were able to bring in non-perishable food items. For each item that they brought in, we would waive $2 of their fines, so they were able to clear up their library accounts and start using them again.
So you got a lot of food.
Yes. And we donated all the food to the local Extended Hands Food Bank.
Nice.
So we had a goal to waive $900 in fines, but we actually waived $1,140 in fines. And of that, 193 items were items that people donated that they didn't even have fines. They just wanted to donate to Extended Hands Food Bank. Those were randomly applied towards children's fines. So we were really proud of the community for doing that, and I know the Extended Hands Food Bank really liked to get their donations. We also have some upcoming programs that you might like to know about. we've just started a new story time for babies called Time for Babies. It's the first and third Tuesdays at 10 a.m. So this is for 0 to 18 months. It has stories, songs, movement, and early literacy activities. So you can see a picture there that's from the actual program. Then we also have a new program, Minecraft Masters. Minecraft is really popular, and so this is for ages 5 through 11 years. And they're going to be doing challenges in creative mode for the kids. Another program that starts tomorrow is Mindfulness. It's once a week for 4 times 11 a.m. So come by tomorrow if you'd like to do that. And then another one that's coming up is October 17th, Project 562, Changing the Way We See Native America. And this is a really interesting program. Matika Wilbur is an acclaimed photographer from the Tulalip and Swinomish tribes in Washington. She's the only Native American photographer and social documentarian to be welcomed into each of the 562 plus Native American sovereign territories in the United States, and she's taken photographs in those tribes. So we're really excited to have her at the library. And then lastly, I'd like to mention we've just had the proclamation of Friends of the Library Week, and we are really grateful to our Friends of the Library. I wanted to mention that our friends have given so much that 96% of our programs are funded by the Fountain Hills Friends of the Library. 4% of our programs are funded by Maricopa County Library District. That enables us to offer a lot more programs than we would be able to offer otherwise. And we can also apply some of the Maricopa County Library District funding towards other things such as books and that type of thing. This past year, we offered 675 programs and had 8,544 people in attendance. So we are really grateful to our friends. They are great volunteers, and they give a lot to us. We're very happy to have them. So thanks again for letting me tell you what we're doing. And I also wanted to mention we are also celebrating Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We have a display in the library, and we invite contributions in the library to domestic violence shelters. And I do have one more thing, a report. The library district did surveys of our early childhood literacy programs, and this is a report from Project Outcome that measures the impact of these programs. So I will just leave this for the council to look at.
Okay.
So thanks again for allowing me to present.
Thank you so much. That was a great presentation. We learned a lot of things that we didn't know is going on in our library. That's awesome.
There we go.
And friends, you're really doing a super job.
Mayor Kavanaugh?
Yes, Nick, Councilman DePorter.
If you wouldn't mind, I just wanted to comment on the library and just dovetail some of that. I have just been astounded and totally impressed by the continued dedication by our town library to kids activities, children activities. My daughter's preschool was recently there for a field trip. Their Lego sessions, their reading to therapy dogs. They've done an amazing job of being that place in the community where people can come together and learn new things, and it's a gathering place. So I thank everybody in the audience that's there from the library, Friends of Library, library staff, for all the amazing work you're doing in our community. Thank you. From a parent.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Councilman DePorter. Next week, thank you so much. And thank you all, friends, for joining us. Next, we have an update by Grace, our Communications and Marketing Coordinator, regarding the current activities and the strategic tourism plan for our tourism division. Grace.
Good evening, Mayor Kavanaugh, members of the council. I just about couldn't have said it better myself. I'm here before you tonight to present an update from the Tourism Division of things that we have done over the last fiscal year, our plans for this fiscal year, and a progress report on our strategic plan. So let's begin by discussing some growth over the last fiscal year. Our town has seen a 7.1% increase in gross hotel room sales tax as compared from fiscal year 15-16 to 16-17. This is incredibly exciting because that growth makes us more eligible for our Arizona Office of Tourism funding. And this year, we are ecstatic to announce that we are eligible and poised to receive more than $37,000 from the Arizona Office of Tourism. And continuing on the note of grants, we were just recently notified that our partnership is ever growing and ever stronger with the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian community, and we have once again also been awarded grant monies from their projects. We have been, thank you.
And they've mentioned that they really enjoy working with you, their people with you, and their president, Delbert Ray, says he is just so excited about the relationship with Fountain Hills and he wants that to continue.
I'm over the moon to hear that. Thank you. We are poised to receive a grant for $35,000 from them, which is up $10,000 from our monies last year. As I know this is a personal favorite of Councilman DePorter's, we'll talk for just a moment about social media and online presence. In this day and age, you just can't get away from an online presence. It's how people plan their leisure time, and we take absolute pleasure in having a very large online presence. So for our Facebook page, which is our most prominent and fastest growing social media platform that we work on of the various ones that we have, our likes are up 15%, and that's compared through July of 2016 through June of 2017. We have an engagement of over 950,000 people with an average of over 3,600 people making engagements per post. So our online presence is reaching thousands of people with our message, with our directives, with our reasons for people to, pardon my opportunity, but to get out of the valley and into the hills. For our tourism website, experiencefountainhills.org, then we have, over the last year, we've seen over 200,000 people spend an average of 1 minute and 38 seconds on our homepage. That is higher than the national average, which means that the feedback we're receiving on this website is that it is engaging, it's holding people's concentration, and it's prompting them to navigate the entire website, allowing them to really soak in all the information that we have. Our most popular cities that we're pulling from on the website include, but are not limited to, Phoenix and Scottsdale, Fountain Hills, of course, Los Angeles, Mesa, Tempe, Chandler, Gilbert, and Glendale. This is very exciting because those were already pre-identified drive markets for us in the state. And so to have that feedback hand in hand that our drive markets are receiving our message just reinsures the fact that our division is marketing properly to those who have an interest in visiting Fountain Hills. For our marketing strides, I'd like to highlight for just a moment some of the very successful marketing endeavors that we saw last year. As council may remember, we have advertised with the Cubs spring training before. We did again this last year, and the Cubs set a new attendance record for 2017. Their total attendance at Sloan Field was over 226,000 people. And that record-breaking crowd not only saw our full one-page ad inside of their program, but they heard our name announced for every home run that was hit during the season.
Yay. I hope they hit a lot of home runs.
They certainly did when Rachel and I saw, I believe, at least 4. So very exciting.
Mayor,
Yes, Vice Mayor.
if I may, Grace, do you have any way of measuring the impact of the fact that so many people saw this page and so on? You get any direct response, either by social media or anything?
It's difficult to say. Measuring what people read is always a tricky endeavor, but when we do look at the analytics, for instance, of the website, and if you dive deeper into the Google Analytics, it shows where people are visiting from. And so when those target cities come up, such as people's home cities, like where Wrigley Field is, or our presence in Los Angeles, that tells me that the folks who are visiting from out of state to where our spring training fields are seeing that program. They're coming from outside destinations, and they're looking to where we are.
How much does that cost us?
The analytics?
No, I'm sorry, the page and the program and so on.
Sure. For the Cubs spring training ad buy is about $5,800.
And that's for a page in each program for each game?
That is for the page, yes, for the entire season. We pay one flat fee.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. For the Waste Management Phoenix Open, they also saw a 2017 attendance, record-breaking attendance. For the week, they saw over 655,000 people. Those crowds also saw our full one-page ad in that program, and they also saw that we were the sponsor for hole number 2. Nice. What we're finding with our advertising is that when we pair creative ad buys that are more engaging and more fluid, like hole sponsorships or home run sponsorships paired with traditional print marketing, we're having a lot of success. We're having a lot of feedback from people who come and say, I saw you on the green. I recognize your spray, and they know what to look for us.
Nice. Okay.
Now, for our new endeavors for this year, I am thrilled to show you that we are diving into many new projects that we've never done before. As council may remember, we have been advertising with Phoenix Magazine for several years now, but thanks to the change in grant monies that we've been granted more than we have in past years, we're moving our ad buy from a 3rd-page ad to a half-page ad. We know how active and engaging our Phoenix Magazine readers are, and so to have a larger visual presence with them, I think will be a very successful endeavor. Next, we'll do an amplified story campaign with Madden Media. Madden Media is a partner with the Arizona Office of Tourism who works very diligently to have dynamic marketing ad campaigns. They work on websites, on social media platforms, and in traditional print marketing. And so we will have a journalist, we're actually hosting a journalist this Thursday, who will come and experience a select group of activities that Fountain Hills has to offer. And she will write a first-person narrative about her experiences. Madden Media will couple that into a dynamic campaign, which will then be marketed not only in the state, but throughout the country in markets that we've identified who travel to Arizona. What I would say is my most exciting project that we're diving into this year is that we have purchased a very large video ad campaign in Sky Harbor International Airport in Terminal Number 4. For anyone who's visited, you may have seen that they have a very large dynamic screen as you're coming down the escalator. And during the seasons that Sky Harbor sells that, they only sell 3 spots, and that's because the video spots are 8 seconds. Sky Harbor has timed this ad spot as such so that should you ride the elevator in completion without walking to accelerate your visit, you will see all 3 ad spots in their entirety.
I always wonder why the escalator is so slow.
And now we're grateful more than ever that it is. Millions of people are about to see our 8-second message. We've timed this to be in early spring when our event season is at its heaviest, and also when traveling is at its heaviest during spring training, waste management, Barrett-Jackson. Last but not least, we will continue to expand upon and pursue a very heavy digital retargeting campaign. And you can look forward to another tourism video, much like our first. We hope to follow in the footsteps of that success, but with some refreshed activities to remind people why we want them to experience Fountain Hills. For the awards section, our division is absolutely thrilled to present to council that for the 3rd year in a row, we have been honored by the International Events and Festivals Association. This is an international association who works with such people as the Kentucky Derby and the Rose Bowl Parade. We have been honored for the following campaigns. For Best Miscellaneous Multimedia for our tourism video. We have Best Single Digital Social Ad Display for our spring training, which you can see on the left. Best Single Newspaper Display, also spring training. That was delivered to our spring training's home cities. We're also proud to present that we were named Best Single Magazine Display Ad for the golf ad you saw previously on the right. Best Ad Series 2017 as we continue to tell people why they should get out of the valley and into the hills. And Best Promotional Poster honored for the 2017 Music Festival. And now if I could borrow just a few moments of your time to discuss the progress report of our tourism strategic plan. I have outlined all 6 of tourism strategic goals, and following those are examples of how they are all in current status of ongoing, but the work that we're doing to uphold those 6 goals. For goal 1 of communication and outreach, we are providing accurate and consistent information on tourism-related issues to our stakeholders, to our residents, and to potential visitors through the website, newsletters, and different means of pushing information. The Visitor's Guide, which was just delivered on Monday. For our destination marketing and promotion, we work to promote our iconic brand. As I mentioned earlier, when that brand is placed in fluid strategic placements, we've seen people come forth and say that they recognize us. They recognize the spray on hole 2. And so that project will remain ongoing. For research, planning, and measurement, we will continue to evaluate the ROI for all of our ad buys to make sure that our target market is being reached and that we're in the proper placements that reach potential visitors who are outlined, who are the most likely to come visit. Industry education, training, and recognition. As you saw before with our ads, with our continued participation in the Arizona Office of Tourism's conference, we will continue to seek out training sessions to be a part of conference environments where we can share ideas around the state and continue to put forth our ideas to awards industries to know amongst our peers if we are on target with the way that marketing is moving. Our tourism product and development to support new and existing recreation and special event programming. This is how just one of the many ways that we reach out to people and express to them why they should visit Fountain Hills and why our tourism program is a product that they should invest their leisure time in. And last but not least, our strategic alliances. As we lean on our residents, potential visitors, and stakeholders, those are the groups who make this division possible, who help spread the message of why everyone should experience Fountain Hills. This is a short outline of how we measure our success as we move through the strategic plan. We will continue to work together, as I mentioned earlier, with residents, with stakeholders, with our peers in the industry who have a wealth of knowledge to share, with our community, with culture and innovation as we move to innovate and reposition ourselves as a destination within the state and the region. It's all in the numbers and maintaining our stronghold in seeking out analytics and return on investment. And quality over quantity, remembering that a good mix of traditional marketing along with fluid and innovative ideas is the ticket to bring more people into town. This is the timeline for the strategic plan. As you can see, we will continue this through year 2020. And at that time, we will again reevaluate the progress and work towards a new strategic plan in the year 2021. If I may answer anything for council.
Councilman Yates.
Thank you. First, how old is our marketing program now? You were in high school? 3 years? Sorry.
Almost 4,
4
before in
years.
January.
Obviously, it's incredible what you guys have accomplished in such a short time. To bring the residents up, this started with, I think, $50,000, which was already allocated, and what you've grown this into is incredible. The biggest challenge in marketing, and you all know this, is how do you reach all those different markets? Utilizing print media in today's marketing is unbelievable, but the way you've targeted that, of course, I'm a Cleveland Indians fan, and I'm hoping this year is our year, but nevertheless, Cubs is okay. Sorry, Kathleen. That's a tremendous target market, and to utilize that, that's absolutely incredible. I can't say enough. You're hitting them all. Search engine optimization, print and social media presence, and what you're doing with video, and on the budget you're doing, and then leveraging that with grants is absolutely incredible. So, I mean, bravo.
And hot off the presses, we just got to look at the new visitor's guide for 2018, and this is really amazing how she's put this together. You know, some people just think, oh, you just drop pictures into something. No, it's not that easy. And she has put together something that is truly a representation of our town. If you could take this and look at it and say, yeah, that's our town. That's a microcosm of our town right there. And that's kind of hard to do in a small booklet like this. And I know these are in all the hotels, and the hotels call us and they say, I'm out, bring me more. And Grace runs down and gets them more. And they're at the airport.
Yes, ma'am.
And we have a spy at the airport and make sure that they stay right in one of those prominent spots. But this is incredible. Something else that's great, because there's a lot of people that still like to hold that in their hand.
Thank you, Mayor
Thank you,
Kavanaugh.
Grace. Anyone else?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Councilman Leger?
Age before, you know.
Oh, thanks. I agree with all the accolades that you've heard, especially from Councilman Yates and Grace. You've done a great job.
Thank you.
There's a but coming. I really don't intend to rain on your parade at all. We've talked about this before. But videos and ads and pages in the Cubs brochure and all that don't necessarily equal success.
Sure.
And so the question really is, we've been through this before. How do we measure success? We've talked about analytics, and as I recall, we were supposed to see some after the last presentation. I may be wrong on this, but I, for one, would like to get updated periodically on the analytics to see if we're having any positive impact. Because as great as awards are, they don't necessarily help the town. Now, please, I'm not raining on your parade. You've
not at
all
all.
done a great job.
Actually, you are.
I'll get my umbrella. But no, seriously, we want to see success, and how we measure success is critical.
I couldn't agree with you more, especially when it comes to the responsible spending of not only our budget, but the grant money. And these analytics are just as important to you as they are to Rachel and I. We are due for a new economic impact study that will encompass many of our special events and the surveys that are taken there. It's just one small component to bring you that data.
Mayor.
I could not agree with you more. Making sure that we are responsibly spending and responsibly reaching the public is of the utmost importance.
Councilman Tolis.
Thank you. I would second everything that was said that was positive here. And I'd like to just recognize a couple of things that you said that really need to be pointed out again. And that is the fact that the increase in the hotel room sales tax, 7.1%, is a measurement that we can actually put our arms around and we can understand. So we want to continue to see that increase in the investment that we have with development at Copperwind, and their willingness to invest to grow that is something that could be said is what tourism is doing for our community. It takes time to build a program. Building the relationship with the tribe is fantastic. I'd like to also see us to work closer with our next door neighbors here as well, and just really continue what you're doing. I saw you at the Oktoberfest, and you were doing a great job out there.
Thank you, sir.
And every event we have, I see you working weekends and late, and you're doing an amazing job. So thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Councilman Leger.
Thank you, Mayor. Grace, I think it's already been said. Nice job. I know when we started down this path, we talked about ROI,
Yes.
and now I'm hearing you talk about ROI, so I'll be looking forward to some analytics and some more specific numbers on ROI. I think as Councilman Tolis stated, we already have something relative to the increase in rooms, so that's a step in the right direction that we can quantify. So great job, appreciate it, thank you.
Thank you, and I look forward to bringing analytics forward to the council.
Right, and because of Grace's outreach and my outreach to the president with Salt River, these are also now in the visitor center at Pavilions. And everybody knows that with the Odyssey there and all the other amazing amenities, to have a partner that's willing to give out our booklet at their center is reaching, we don't even know how many, but you can imagine with the amount of people that go there to the Butterfly Museum and everything else that they're building. They're an incredible partner to have, and they do appreciate working with you. Thanks, Grace.
Thank you,
Nothing else?
council.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Grace. Okay, I just want to announce that item number 10, which was originally on the consent agenda, is moved to the regular agenda. So for our, let's start with call to the public. Do we have any?
Mayor, we have one card. Tony
Okay.
Finocchio.
Okay. Please come up. Okay.
Well,
So
Madam
just-
Mayor,
just-
distinguished, pardon me?
Just state your name and that you're from Fountain Hills. That's
Tony
it.
Finocchio, Fountain Hills resident.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, distinguished Town Council members, thank you for allowing me to have this privilege to speak tonight to you. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Tony Finocchio, and I am running for election to the Fountain Hills Sanitary Board. My purpose for speaking today is not to make a campaign speech, but to assure all of you that if elected, I will work as hard as I can to bring the Sanitary Board and the Town Council to the same mindset, to work together for the best outcomes for the people of Fountain Hills. I believe that both bodies should have an obligation to the people that put you in these elected offices. Well, I know you are elected, but all the Sanitary Board members have all been appointed and reappointed. I don't know who they feel responsible to, maybe to each other. All I know is that both of your names start with Fountain Hills, and the taxpayers pay for all the bills. I had the pleasure to attend the September board meeting of the Sanitary District and heard Mr. Tim Giese, Fire Rock Golf Club General Manager, tell the board that the salt content in the reclaimed water they receive is detrimental to their golf course turf, and that it was the worst he had seen in 22 years. Now, I am sure you know that there are 3 golf courses that buy the effluent water in Fountain Hills from the district at the tune of over $457,000. If that water is destroying the turf at the golf courses and they stop buying and using it, what would happen to all that reclaimed water? That water isn't even the water the town gets. The golf courses get their water bypassing the water that is stored in the lake. The town gets all the irrigation water that is stored in the lake, not very good for our grass in the park either. Now, I said that I believe that the town and the Sanitary District should work together to improve the overall condition of the namesake of our town, Fountain Hills Lake and Fountain Hills Park. I caught hell for saying that from some of their board members, but for some reason, they don't understand whatever is done by either the town council or from the Sanitary District is ultimately paid by the same people. The taxpayers and the sanitary ratepayers are the same. They are Fountain Hills residents and business owners. Now, I know that Mr. Reski, a sanitary board member, is founder and president of Quantum Integrated Solutions, and that he made a proposal to the town to supposedly remedy some of the problems with the foul smell and saltwater spotting. Unfortunately, it didn't use him. If you had, maybe he wouldn't be so cantankerous with the town council. Who knows? Then there's the state trust land situation. I do know from reading their minutes that some sanitary district members met with members of the town council to discuss the state trust land. The sanitary district is capable to handle a finite number of new residential homes, and they are concerned about the limitations of their existing plant footprint. Who would pay for the increase over and above the existing footprint, and how much it would cost? A valid concern. The sanitary district volunteered to secure a proposal from Carrillo Engineers to perform a study, but not pay for it. By the way, that's the same company Dana Trumke was employed to before becoming our new sanitary district manager.
Could you just wrap it up quickly? You're out of time.
Couple seconds. This was on March 28th. Nothing has been done to secure a proposal since then. The state trust land situation is in limbo until they get all these answers. This is why I make this pledge to you and all the residents of Fountain Hills that I will work tirelessly to bring both bodies together to work for the benefit of our residents. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
No, Mayor.
Okay. So we'll go on to our consent agenda, and I'm asking for a motion to accept all 9 as written.
So moved.
In a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mayor, 7-0.
Okay, now we go on to number 10 of, that's our first item on our regular agenda, consideration of approving the First Amendment to Cooperative Purchase Agreement C 2017-045 between MR Tanner Development and Construction Incorporated and the Town of Fountain Hills for asphalt replacement and miscellaneous work in an amount not to exceed $2,500,000. And Grady, you want to start?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, the item before you basically is a contract to a company that will be providing the pavement replacement and miscellaneous work as part of our pavement management program. Our Public Works Director is prepared to come up and give a brief overview of how this award of this contract actually fits in with our strategy for dealing with pavement management. So Mr. Weldy will be approaching the council on this.
Why does this say that? That's September 14th.
Mayor Kavanaugh, Council. The first slide that we have up here actually shows, excuse me, the approved budget that is in the budget book, which is a little bit more than $2 million. The second slide that we have here, and I may have to go back and forth because I divided it up a little bit. So Zone 1 for the remaining years is going to be A, B, and C. The total to do all of the work is about $2,800,000 plus or minus with some owner's allowances. This year, we intend to do about $2,100,000 worth of work. The next slide actually shows all of the zones within the pavement management program. And that just gives you a general idea of where we are at. And then the final slide actually shows the portion that we intend to work on this year. Note that on the right-hand side of the screen, there is an area that has already been completed. There's an area that shows the future mill and overlay, and then there will be additional work in regards to crack filling and slurry seal, which will take place in 18-19 to finish out Zone 1.
Do we have these slides on our screen?
Mayor.
And that is really the long and short of it, and I'm certainly willing to answer any questions should anyone have any.
Vice Mayor?
I must be mistaken, but I thought we decided we weren't going to do this by zone, and they were going to do it by need. Is that not correct?
Mayor Kavanaugh, Councilmember Magazine, staff has not been given that direction yet. Part of the discussion and related to that, excuse me, was with the pavement analysis program, in which, depending on the results of the analysis, we would then take their advice based on a grading. So we may not go into Zone 1 for all of the money for that year, but we may pick sections in other parts of town depending on the condition of the pavement. Ideally, what we can save, we save first. And what we can replace, we replace. And that's based on an analysis.
And what's the status of that analysis? And who's performing it?
The pavement analysis?
Yeah.
I am, sir.
Okay, And what's, if I understand what you're saying, is that when that analysis is finished, then you determine the order in which you pave and so slurry seal and so on various streets. Is that correct?
If I could just jump in, Vice Mayor, what the Public Works Director is trying to say is when we had this discussion, there was the last time we had this discussion, there was a possible award of a contract to a company that was going to help us assess our streets. And I believe that was around $100,000 or so. The council at the time opted not to go through with that and pretty much gave the direction of the staff at the time to do the assessment themselves. We do think at some point we need to bring that back to council for your consideration or reconsideration. But until that actually happens, the methodology that we're following is basically trying to finish out Zone 1. Zone 1 is the oldest of all the streets in town. We're very close to getting it completed. And so at this point, you're absolutely correct. There was a discussion about trying to address the worst streets because there may be some worse streets, or we know of some streets that are worse in other zones. And when we've had failures, absolute failures, we've addressed those when that does happen.
My recollection is that I made the motion to approve that expenditure, to do that analysis, to hire that company, and that failed. That motion failed. I thought we had decided that we were going to bring it up at a work study, and that hasn't happened as far as I know.
No, I believe my recollection on this, and I might be mistaken, but I believe it failed, and the council at the time indicated that they have full faith and confidence at staff to do that analysis and assessment of the streets themselves at that time.
Then if I could just, one more thing, if I just go back to my original question, I know you're awfully busy, but what's the status of the analysis? When might we see something like that?
Well, Mayor Kavanaugh, Councilmember Magazine, I will actually be doing an analysis of this area starting next week, simply because we do not have enough funding to do the entire area. So I will go out there and make the difficult decisions on what we will be able to do this week based on the conditions. So it never really has stopped. It's an ongoing analysis that previously the Public Works Director and myself did, and currently it's just myself doing that analysis.
I understand that. I would just say that I really think it's a mistake, and I'm not blaming anybody because it's a process, but I think it's a mistake to go zone by zone. I think we really have to determine which roads need it the most, and so the faster we can get that done and make some decisions, I think would be good.
Councilman Tolos?
Thank you, Mayor. I remember this discussion very well because I voted against the $115,000 to have an outside company do the evaluation because I did believe that we had the ability in-house to evaluate this. I remember specifically asking Paul Mood to pull the records of all street maintenance in this town and where we are right now and go worst first, and to work with existing paving companies locally and try to establish a committee of experts that would volunteer pro bono to come and help our town to evaluate what's needed and the necessities of the roads and worst first. Performance Paving was a company that I actually went to and spoke with the owner directly, and he had offered his services to communicate with the town and to work with the town and try to help in any way he could. From my understanding, nothing came back from Paul Mood in regards to that, and he had resigned or took another position as of February of 2017, and here we are continuing to talk about this. I know we talked about first to correct the worst streets, and I'm in agreement with Councilman Magazine that the zone type of management system that we were looking to change that. So that's my recollection, and I still believe that that's the way we should be handling it.
Councilman Yates?
I was going to go a different direction, but to put it back in yours, mobilization when you do projects like this, it's a big deal. And although I'm sure you could go around and, kind of cherry pick streets, using the zone method and then hunkering down on which ones are the worst within the zone, I think that's perfectly logical, especially when mobilization is a factor here. Would you not agree, or could you enlighten us on the methodology and why this is better than, potentially better than just going to the worst streets in the town, no matter where they are?
Mayor Kavanaugh, Councilmember Yates, we currently, myself and the town manager, are at the direction of this council and previous councils that directed us towards the zone approach. So it's up to this body right here to decide to take a different approach, if you would like to do that. I certainly have no opposition to breaking it up and doing what's needed first. But again, it's up to the elected officials to make that decision and change the zone approach.
Madam Mayor, as a follow-up, Director, so in your professional opinion, would you feel the cost would be greater, less than, or the same, going worst to first, cherry picking all over the town, or going zone by zone?
There would certainly be an increased cost simply because of moving some of the larger equipment. And to note, a profiler, a milling machine, we simply cannot walk that down our roads. So there's certainly a cost associated with mobilization. Sometimes that's reduced depending on the contract amount or the length of time that they will be here, but most certainly there will be an increased cost for doing a selected area inside of certain zones.
Mayor.
Hold on, Madam Mayor, last question. The 2.5 million, obviously this has already been budgeted and it's HERF funds, correct? This is not, is this a use it or lose it situation as well?
HERF monies can be carried over from year to year. In fact, in prior years, we banked the HERF
Okay.
monies.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Trollis?
Mayor, thank you. I think that to a certain extent, you are already doing worst first, even in the zone management system. If you look at the Zone 5 and you were to drive around that area, which I've done, Hampstead was completed, and then you have some of the outside streets that are done. Then you'll have a random cul-de-sac that was done. And so there are pockets that's already happening. And if we were to look back at the council minutes in the discussion, I'm certain of what I'm saying was spoke at this council because I had brought it up in regards to reaching out and trying to have some sort of a panel of experts in the paving management business that are local to Fountain Hills that may be willing to help us to evaluate this at no cost, at working with us. And I still think that that's a good recommendation to at least reach out and see if we can find some people that are experts that can give us a little bit more insight as to the best way to handle this. I think that you, of course, are fully capable as the director, but that was brought up at this council. And has anyone on your staff or yourself reached out in that regard based on those recommendations?
Mayor Kavanaugh, Councilmember Tullis, I went and sat with the owner of Performance Paving. We have also had discussion with Vincon and Vices. These are either a local resident or a local contractor, and certainly there are several that are willing to lend their expertise.
Excellent.
The issue is time. How much time do they have and when? And so has it been organized? Absolutely not. If that is the direction that staff is given, that is certainly the direction we will go if the town manager agrees with that.
Mayor,
Vice Mayor.
sorry to prolong this, but I think it's important. I live in Zone 1. I'm delighted with the street. But if I lived in Zone 4 or 5, I'm not sure I'd be very happy because I don't know if I'd live long enough to see the roads repaired. I thought, and I may be mistaken, that we had a consensus when we discussed this the last time, that in fact we wanted to get away from the zone approach. And so I would ask town manager to put this on an agenda so we can discuss it again and give clear direction to staff as to what we want to accomplish.
I'll be happy to. This is really more of a cost containment approach. You're trying to deal with the older roads first and get those knocked out. And what I mean by cost containment is, as you know, we're going to be getting into a discussion next week about, revenue options and so forth. If we had an additional infusion of money going into the pavement management program, Absolutely. I think that that approach is the way to go, and I think we can organize it in such a way to identify the worst roads and prioritize it that way. This way, we're trying to have some fairness, and my concern is if we go into the worst street approach, neighbors and people in the community are going to be contacting us to say that they believe that their streets are at the absolute worst. And this is some sort of a, and it doesn't, you don't understand, but this is a way for us to help manage expectations. And that's what we're trying to do. And we get these calls all the time. As you know, the lowest priority for streets are what we call neighborhood streets. And that's because they don't have the traffic volume. The next highest in the road preservation and maintenance is the collector streets. Those are the ones that kind of feed into neighborhoods and circulate traffic. And then you have your major arterials. Those are like Fountain Hills Boulevard, Shea, Saguaro, and so forth. So we're getting into some very serious numbers here. Justin, just on the Saguaro improvements that we had done in 2015 and 16, and the Shea that was done before that, I mean, we're at a point where we can't even afford to really do those projects where we need to do some preservative treatments to those roads in order to maintain them longer. And what is the cost of just those off the top of your head?
I do not have a cost for Saguaro yet, but
Okay.
the cost for Shea is about $600,000 for the segment of the climbing lane and the mill and overlay. That's not all of Shea, but the stuff that we paved just a short 5 years ago.
So, I mean, that's just that. And then, of course, you got Saguaro, which was huge. And so we're really, it's a matter of resources. We don't have the resources to do everything that we ought to be doing. And I know we're going to get into that discussion a little bit next week, but I just want to let you know, we will bring this back. I think it's a great idea, and we will bring it back, and we'll bring our ideas on how we can help implement what is being suggested tonight.
Councilman Tolis?
Mayor, thank you. This is to me, this is a really important issue. And I think that the streets in this community should be of exceptional quality. Town Manager Grady and I believe we had a conversation about this many months ago, and I had agreed with you that you had a strategy to grade these streets, to try to come up with a grading system. And I think that when this comes back to council, I would like to see that grading system, and I'd like to see A, B, C, D, and as you as the director come back and say, here are some of the streets in this community, and let's all come to a consensus. What is an A, what's a B, what's a C, what's a D, and what's the priority? And really, whether we're dealing with the main arteries, the neighborhood streets, they're all very important. Quality of life for everyone is important, and we all want great streets. Let's try to fast track this on an agenda and get this resolved quickly.
Councilman Yates?
Finally, is there a timing issue with this contract? I know with the cost of petroleum going up or down, it could affect the cost of the contract. How long is the bid good for?
Mayor Kavanaugh, Councilmember Yates, this contract is good, the money's until the end of June. So it's a secure contract once it's agreed to, if the council approves it, because the vendor has already signed it. So that will be good until June 30th of 2018.
Excellent. Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Joe.
Mayor? Oh, go ahead.
Councilman Day?
Thank you, Mayor. Justin, I think this is your first presentation before council as a new director. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm really glad to see that the town manager removed this from the consent agenda because it's a $2.5 million expenditure, and I think expenditures that large should never be buried in a consent agenda. As you can see from this discussion, it is a hot topic. It's an important topic, and I think it's important for the residents to know that monies are being spent on our roads. A lot of money is being spent on the road, but about half of the amount of money that we need to be spent on the road. So thank you for your presentation.
You're welcome.
Councilman Brown?
Mayor, if I may, once again, congratulations. That's a huge step, Director.
Thank you.
And I would encourage possibly talking to Performance. I also sat with Tom and visited with him, and he reached out to us saying, I would be more than happy to help a little bit. And so I would like to see you reach out to Tom again, and then I would ask the town manager to put this on a work study session sooner than later, because the streets are, the streets have been a problem for a long, long, long time, and it all dials back to money. So this council needs to be able to make some decisions as to how to direct the funds to get our streets back up in shape.
Okay, any other comments?
We don't need a motion.
No, so it looks like we're just going to
Table this.
table this until future discussion. Were there any speaker cards on this item?
No, Mayor.
No? Okay. Thank you, Justin. Oh, I know. The sense lady. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, number 11. It's my pleasure to do this one. Consideration of appointing one citizen to the Community Services Advisory Commission for the remainder of a one-year term beginning October 3rd, 2017, and ending on December 31st, 2018. I move to appoint Sharon Grisbalski to serve on the Community Services Advisory Commission for the remainder of the term beginning October 1st, 2017, and ending December 31st, 2018. Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, any speaker cards? Any council discussion?
Madam Mayor.
Yes, Councilman Yates.
I tease Sharon, but Sharon, if you could stand up, because I love your hair. I told Sharon, I said I have blue hair on the inside.
Sharon, where is she?
I'm real excited about Sharon joining CSAC because high energy, neat ideas, out of the box thinking, and very happy to have you join the commission. Thank you.
And I read what you said about joining. You want to take part in your community and give us something back and help us out. And I'll tell you, this is the greatest way to get started, and we are so pleased that you'll be joining us, as long as I can get an all in favor.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Mayor,
Congratulations,
7-0.
Sharon. Thank you very much. And I hope that 1 year turns into a full term next time. I think maybe I look good in blue. What do you think?
Purple.
Okay, consideration of a cooperative purchase agreement, C 2018-040, with Riddle Painting and Coatings Company in the amount of $189,108.98 for the painting of buildings in the Civic Plaza. And Grady?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, we have before us a recommendation for a painting program for the campus here. And our facilities and environmental manager, Raymond Reese, is going to go through the proposed color scheme. This is budgeted in the capital replacement program, and I think for the amount of paint that's going to be expended on this, I think that the cooperative purchasing agreement is very competitive for what normally this might cost if we try to bid this out ourselves. With that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Reese.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Just a little background information. The campus has not been painted since 2007. That was our last paint job. And it was painted the same color as it was on the original campus painting. So it was that same color you see out there, the pink and the blue and stuff like that. So what we would like to do is we'd like to reduce the number of paint colors that we have on the building and do some repair works, minor repair works for the stucco and stuff like that. They're going to be using some special primers and paints to reinforce some of the stucco that's coming off of the building, especially over at the library. So this is the view for the east-facing view at the community center. This is looking north at the back of the community center. You can see we've reduced the number of colors on that. This is over at the Library Museum. So the area that we're really going to focus on to do the repairs is this section of the museum. If you go over there now, you can see the lines where the block is, and you can see some of the stucco is coming off of the building. And they did recommend, the vendor that we use, that next time we go to paint, is we are going to have to do some stucco repair on those buildings. So here's our color palette: brown, light brown, and lighter brown. It is sauteed mushrooms, coffee, toasted almonds, and the odd one, kangaroo. I don't know how they picked that one. Actually, we had the representative from the paint company. They did the renderings for us, and they also did some recommendations on where to place it and stuff. So with that, I am done with the presentation, and I will answer any questions.
Councilman Yates.
Great job, Raymond. I applaud this. The bid is very competitive for 3 buildings and the amount of work that's going to be done. To piggyback on what Councilman Leger was saying, that R&R study, replacement reserve study we did a few years ago, showed that we needed to fund about $1 million a year to keep things like this, our chiller system, doors, windows, carpets, floors, things of this nature. I think our budget line item is like 70, 80 grand a year. Again, just to show. So to leverage what you do have and able to get this kind of return, I applaud it, and thank you for doing this. Well needed.
Councilman Brown.
Mayor?
Oh, Councilman DePorter.
I'm sorry, I can wait till the end.
Okay, Councilman Brown.
Thank you. Raymond, are they going to paint the monuments around the Centennial Circle that are pink and the ones out in front of the...
Councilman Brown, that was not put in on the original bid, but we do have a buffer in there, an owner's allowance that we should be able to do an amendment to it to get that done, but it was not done at the time when we did the contract.
That's a great idea.
Because you look at the very first photo, and right out in front of the Civic Center, we've got the pink, now we've got the pink monster just standing up there all by itself.
There's about 7 pink monsters out
No,
there.
there are actually 8.
As a note as well, we are going to be painting all the trim for the doors and windows, so that pink will be removed from there. We'll be also doing the lighting for the parking lot as well, and the shade canopies.
No, we're going with standardized colors, not goofy color palettes and all that.
It's called Art Deco.
So like sauteed mushroom is now standard.
Kangaroo, yeah.
Anyone else? Oh, Vice Mayor.
Mayor.
I'll let Councilman DePorter go first.
He wanted to go last.
I'll go last, okay. The 189,000 sort of hit me, given our fiscal situation. But with the Friends of the Library sitting here, and my wife, who's the former president of the Friends of the Library, watching on television, there is no way I'm going to oppose this.
You better paint that library.
But I do have a request, and that is that when we have these kinds of things in front of us, could we get a list of the other items that are on the replacement list?
We'll be happy to do that.
I'm not saying this isn't worthy or might not be at the top of the list. I'd like to see the list, though. I mean, for example, is it more important than a chiller? Is it more important than something else,
That's a good suggestion, and we'll be happy to do that. And in fact, I wanted to let you know that with the exception of the, I guess it would be the slurry seal that happened to the parking lots last year, we pretty much banked and carried over the $1 million or so that was in the fund last year, because I didn't feel comfortable moving forward. And then we just had a recent meeting probably about a month ago to try to go through that fund and just see if the items are still relevant. And then, so we did kind of a scrubbing of that. But yes, that's a great idea, and we'll make sure that on future items, and I think one is that we're looking at is for the interior of this building. There's some things that we'll be bringing forth, so we'll make sure that that's attached to the action form. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Raymond? Any speaker cards? Yeah, there weren't any speaker cards. Okay, Councilman DePorter.
My only comment The only reason I left it to the end, Mayor, is that it wasn't monumental, except to thank Raymond for having the taste to get rid of the odd colors. Give us the spectrum of browns that will not go out of style. So thank you for ditching the pastels, and I can't wait till we get into the inside of the community center to do the same attack when it's needed. So thank you, Raymond.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you. Anything else? Councilman Yates?
Madam Mayor, I move to approve the contract with Riddle Painting and Coatings Company in the amount of $189,108.98.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mayor, 7-0.
Thank you. Thanks, Raymond. Nancy's going to be disappointed it's not purple. Consideration of awarding contract C 2018-056 to Christmas Light Decorators for the town's holiday lights in the amount not to exceed $50,000 annually with 4 one-year renewal options for an aggregate of $250,000 and authorizing a budget transfer from the General Government Contingency Fund to the Downtown Strategy Fund in the amount of $19,650. And we'll start with Grady.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, we have had a multi-year contract for the holiday lighting that we've had on the Avenue of the Fountains and also the lights that appeared on the roof of the buildings on this campus. That contract ended this year, and we went through a RFP process. We were kind of asked by the council when we had a discussion about the downtown lighting if we can kind of refresh the look, because we've had the same look for a number of years. And so the staff kind of took that to heart, and they put out a RFP. They met with multiple vendors to make sure that they understood what our needs were, and also gave them the opportunity to be as creative as possible. Unfortunately, this came back. We had been spending approximately $30,000 annually, and this came back, and it was considerably higher than we ever anticipated. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Community Services Director Goodwin, who will give you an overview of this process and the contract that's before you tonight.
Thank you. Mayor, council members, we, just as Grady just mentioned, we went through an RFP process specifically to really reimagine what could be done on our avenue for our holiday lighting. It has been 5 years since the last contract was awarded. A lot has changed in that time. The avenue has been redesigned. Our trees have grown. They have multiplied in number. And there's a number of other economic impacts that have impacted this scope. We have worked with one particular vendor. They are not the low bidder. They are, however, by score, the most creative and the recommended vendor by staff based on their design and their vision for the avenue. Keep in mind that we have 3 kind of components to our holiday lighting. One being our palm trees on the perimeter of the avenue, the other being the plaza, the tree wrapping, and our different ground display items. And then we also have the roof lines of our 3 municipal buildings. Going through those, we have taken a number of initiatives to try to maximize this budget. I'd like to show you some renderings that were provided by Christmas light decorators, so you can get an idea of where we went with the design. And this may give you kind of an idea here to get started. All right. So starting us off, you may notice the initiative was to add some more greenery and daytime elements to the avenue so that it's not just an evening decorating item through the holiday season, but some daytime decor with the greenery and the ribbons. Those are, however, also lit for evening impact. Tree wrapping there in the background you can see as well. New this year, we would look to add some additional decor in the central plaza areas. I recognize these are a little dark. These were taken in the daytime and tried to kind of accentuate what it might look like at nighttime. But you might see the ramadas are lit in each of our central plaza sections, as well as additional greenery. This is a little bit better rendering to show you kind of what the ramadas may look like. In some of the other central plaza areas, we would add additional greenery and bows just to continue the theme throughout the avenue. What you're not seeing on here would be the traditional tree wrapping in the background there of our large and medium trees. So that would be in addition to what you're seeing here. They've also proposed a number of additional amenities and decor items as featured here. A showcase piece, essentially what we're considering the piece where you're going to take your family Christmas picture that you're going to post online, hopefully. Hopefully, again, showing off that you visited the light display here in Fountain Hills. And one of the big initiatives for this year was adding a Christmas tree to our display. This was brought forth by a resident, as far as I recall, and we were anxious to add this to our downtown display. So this would be featured at the end of the avenue there at the Saguaro. This is the proposal put forth that town, in review by staff, support. Again, these are items all in addition to traditional tree wrapping, as well as a number of our ground display items. Our ground display items are in a bit of disrepair. We have over 50 that are in need of, some are more in worse state than others. We have pulled about 25 of them to be upgraded to LED and refurbished for use. However, funding and other limitations have dictated that it's probably not reasonable to do all of them at this time. So those will be worked into the display as well. In so doing, in order to accommodate this vision, it would reduce the lighting on our municipal buildings. So essentially, we would look to give up that lighting in order to gain more on the avenue. That's kind of our anticipation for this. The budget we have currently accommodates just over $30,000. In talking with Grady, we anticipate that we can supplement the difference through the Downtown Strategy Fund with spending authorization via the contingency fund.
Rachel, just so we understand this, the lights that they put up, they're going to be maintaining.
So they would be up for the holiday season, and they would be maintaining them for any vandalism or any issues that we may have. That is part of this process, is why we're looking to use a different vendor than we have in the past. I know we've had a number of problems in terms of shortages and outages and things like that. So we're anticipating that to be reduced with this vendor.
And the ground lighting, the ground
displays
that we have, are they going to maintain those, or do we still have to do that?
They will be refurbishing them for us. They will be updating them with LEDs and kind of reinvigorating those. We will be storing them so we can maintain kind of control and make sure that they are maintained properly on our grounds, but they will be installing them and making sure that they're as sturdy as possible.
And the refurbishing and all of that, is that included in this price?
The refurbishing is a one-time expenditure that Grady has approved through the contingency fund, so that because it is a one-time expenditure, everything else would be an ongoing expenditure.
Okay. Councilman Yates?
Thanks, Mayor. Rachel, wonderful job. I love the Bedford Falls, It's a Wonderful Life thing. You outdid yourself, and I love the fact that you described the company as the most creative. But as you can imagine, when we're all sitting up here trying to scrape dollars together to refurbish roads, I kind of would like to think, and I'm not a Scrooge, I love the holiday season, I'll go out there with a bell, whatever I can do to help. But what can we do to bring it back into budget, that 30,000 mark? Me personally, I would be more comfortable staying with what we budget without spending any more money.
Well, to honestly answer that, it would take some significant decisions as to what we want to lose. What you're seeing here, in addition to the palm tree wrapping, as well as the ground display installations, and our standard tree wrapping throughout the plaza trees, if we're gonna cut that number, it requires a difficult decision of what of that we lose. That would be difficult at this point, and I think there was a discussion several months ago about potentially wrapping trees for permanently.
Those are now called Allen's lights?
Yes, Allen's lights.
Who doesn't want to spend the money now?
Well, it's not cheap.
Still your
I mean, it
light.
really isn't. It's very labor intensive. As I was reminded, nature grows. It gets bigger. Which once was a medium tree is now a large tree, and that takes more effort. It takes more supplies. It takes more. So it would be a very difficult decision to say what we would want to lose in order to reduce that budget.
Hang on a second, I think Grady wanted to
Yeah,
comment.
if you don't mind, so we went through this. We're not getting anything that looks like what we've done in the past for 30,000. That, I mean, it is, you're
vendor was
getting
in that ballpark.
probably half of what you had before. And it's just not going to be, we went through and it was like being a little kid. You know, your mother only has so much money at the grocery store and you know, the kid keeps putting stuff on. You know, we weren't even doing that. We were just trying to hold the line. And I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe that this is this high, because it just, we got off a 5-year contract. But these are the firms that do this for, you know, other municipalities. This one, I believe, does, you know, the Glendale Glitters. We went through and we figured out to try to preserve as much as what we have, and it's still a reduction. We won't have the lights on the buildings here. That was $8,000 just to do that. And we had to cut that, so I felt like everything should be on the avenue. And we couldn't do all the repairs, the ground displays as mentioned. We're only doing on the wrapping, I believe it's, of the palm trees, it's only 1 out of every 3, is it?
Correct. So each cluster of 3, we would actually only look to wrap 1 in order to preserve the budget and extend it as far as possible.
And then the last part about this is that we have to, and I'm not trying to put pressure on the council, but if we don't lock in now, this vendor has other requests and they can't give us assurances that they can even do this for us this year. So that's, and it's not that they're putting pressure, it would be any of the other vendors would be in that same situation. Because they have to order the items, they have to get it set up, and they already have their commitments already.
Hate to hear
for
what you
these
call
other
pressure.
folks. Sorry about it. This is the reality check, and I'm sorry, the town manager sometimes has to do that.
Councilman Tolis?
Thank you, Mayor. You know, a beautiful downtown in the holiday season, there's nothing better than having the people walking downtown and enjoying the shops and the restaurants, and I think we should do everything we can to make it an incredible downtown experience. Some thoughts I had as you're talking to add to additional revenue possibilities to make up maybe the difference in where we're at and cost-wise. How about talking with Fort McDowell Adventures, seeing whether or not we can have horse and carriage rides, that they can actually come down and bring people around the park and charge for it, and they can rent to be here in certain weekends or every weekend from Thanksgiving on through New Year's. Rental food vendors, and having vendors on the south side of the avenue that will complement all the other restaurants as well, but serving hot chocolate, things of that nature, and getting the sales tax revenues from businesses that would be down there. Working with the community theater to have productions down in the center that keep people around. The realtors, the shops, the downtown, Sammy's. You know, Sammy's and Stephanie are experts in regards to marketing and capitalizing on the holidays and virtually every time of the year. One of the best jewelry stores in all of the valley, and it's right here in Fountain Hills. But they market, and they are really good at it. And they might be something that we can talk to them and how to work together to create a downtown experience for everyone, which I think will raise more money. It'll attract people to Fountain Hills, and they invest in Fountain Hills when they enjoy the experience. So I'd encourage all those ideas, and I think we should move forward with doing this type of a project.
Councilman Leger?
Rachel, thank you for the presentation and the spiffy enhancement of the avenue. I concur wholeheartedly with Councilman Yates. You're looking at a 40% increase, and we're scraping nickels and dimes. I think we should be able to get a wonderful display at less cost. As a matter of fact, as I look at this presentation, it's awesome, but it's concentrated in the plaza, and I understand the goal visually, but I think at the same time, we might be getting less for more money. And I think whether we do this display or the display that we did last year, I'm not sure that there's going to be a significant difference in sales tax revenue with respect to people coming in and enjoying it. So my question is simple. When they presented this proposal, was it set up kind of in an à la carte way?
It was.
Okay, so being à la carte gives us an option maybe to womp off $5,000, womp off $10,000, whatever number. I mean, with inflation, I can see, because we had a long contract, that 30,000 is unrealistic, but 40% increase is really hard to swallow. So if we could, I'm not sure if there's a number Councilman Yates feels comfortable with, but you know, if we could kind of land someplace in the middle. Over the years, I've received compliments about the building, the parapets being lit up, which is a really cool thing. We're losing that, so that's why I'm saying we're getting less for more. Thank you.
Vice Mayor.
I'm disturbed by the recommendation. And Rachel, I don't blame you. You did your job and you competitively bid it and so on. And the council won't be surprised. I'm going to get back on my high horse. And she's smiling because she knows what I'm going to say. We had a presentation not too long ago that said we're facing a $6 million shortfall each of the next 20 years. But boy, you can't tell it by the way we spend money. Everything seems to be available. We're painting buildings. We don't want we want the citizens to see the best possible lighting situation they can see. I, for one, think the citizens have to see and understand where we are, and they don't. And so if we have to have less holiday lighting, we have less holiday lighting. If we can't do things, we just can't do them. And again, this is not aimed at you, but I'm getting very frustrated that it seems like everything that comes along is doable in some way, like we have a bottomless pit of money. And we don't, and we're going to be facing very hard times. And so I can't support this. And you know, people may say, it's only $20,000. It's $19,000, big deal. Well, it's 19 here, and it's 50 there, and it's 150 there, and it adds up, and we got problems. And so I can't support this.
Rachel, just a question. I know that the chamber runs a Stroll in the Glow, and that's on the day that everything is all lit up, and that kind of kicks off the season.
Correct.
Have they been approached to maybe kick in some money for this?
We have talked with them in the past, not specific to this contract and this format. It was anticipated that they don't have a budget set aside for that. We can certainly have that conversation. In the past, it was sort of a partnership in that the town provided the lights, the glow, if you will, and in exchange for the chamber facilitating the activities and all of the other amenities that go on that evening. We can certainly reach out to that. And in so doing, and kind of to answer to your question, we can certainly cherry pick this process, and that's how we asked all of our vendors to bid, so that we could kind of line by line really figure out what we could get for the dollars. What is unfortunate is that, you know, if we want to follow what our budget allows, it will certainly result in a lesser display than what we saw last year. No vendor came in under budget. No vendor came in even close to that budget for any of the display items. So if we want to stick with that, and that's the directive, that is absolutely fine. I'm confident we can put together a display, just with the understanding that it won't be equivalent to what we've had in the past.
Councilman Brown?
Thank you, Mayor. Have you given a little consideration possibly to, from Saguaro to Verde River Drive, just doing that area opposed to doing the entire avenue, and putting more in a concentrated area?
Sure, that's one option. We can certainly look into that. We hadn't, only because our business district does reach the full length, but we can certainly do that if that's what we'd like to do.
I personally would rather see a little more life and a little more lighting and a little more joy in a smaller area than spreading it all the way across our town and making it look like we couldn't afford to do anything else.
Sure. We can certainly look at
That
that.
would be my
I
recommendation.
think that's a great suggestion, but I also would like to see if you could approach the Chamber of Commerce, since their businesses are really benefiting by tourists coming down and people strolling at night and going to the restaurants. I think it would be a good idea to ask them if they could kick in some money for it. I think that for Stroll in the Glow, the stores open their doors, the fire department takes care of Santa, and so I'm not sure how much of an expense that the chamber does put out, and they do benefit greatly by everything that we have there. So if you could have
happy to
that
reach out to
conversation with them. Councilman Tolos?
Thank you, Mayor. I think these are all great ideas, and I think that the council is being frugal in regards to the spending, which we should be. But I think there's also an opportunity for businesses to realize the benefit of even sponsorships. And Phyllis Kern has done, I wish she was still here, I was going to call her.
She was here.
Yeah, she was here. And, you know, she's raised tremendous amount of monies for the 4th of July. I'm a business owner in town. I know I'd contribute to this. So be great to see a really beautiful downtown if we can figure out how to afford it. And if we gave you maybe another week or so, would you think you'd be able to try to come up with some creative ways that we might be able to make up the difference in money?
We can certainly make calls and reach out. Like you said, unfortunately, we're a bit behind the 8 ball in terms of timeline, being that it's already October, and installation needs to be done and completed by the end of November. In addition to all of the other projects that like Grady mentioned, they handle Glendale Glitters and another number of other municipal installations for the holiday season. So we're kind of crunched for time, but I can certainly make the calls. I think the chamber is starting there and maybe working with some of our key businesses along the avenue to see if there's a feasibility there. We can certainly make those calls.
But also look at Councilman Brown's suggestion that if we take that amount of money that we used to spend and just put it on that section, maybe we can get an awesome display without having to go over budget. But
absolutely,
but also ask them for the money.
Our vendor's been very creative in trying to maximize what we have and really make that impact, stretch it as far as possible. So depending on the directive this evening, I imagine we can circle back and start that process ASAP tomorrow.
Okay, maybe we can get a nice sponsor for that Christmas tree.
It would be nice.
Yeah. Any other
Madam Mayor. suggestions? I was just going to, granted, the last 8 years were a little rough, and the consumer price index was pretty flat. But let's say on average 2 to 3% times 5 years, so that puts us at 10 to 15% increase. To increase this much, but I was going to suggest maybe we do adjust to maybe 36,000. I know that's not much, but it's hard for me to swallow going from 30 to 50. My phone is going nuts with people watching saying, don't lose a Christmas tree, don't lose this, don't lose that. So I'll leave that to you, but maybe trade one photo op for the other. I like the idea of keeping the tree. That could accommodate, and I love Dennis's idea. I think that's a great idea, a smaller area. But I think you could still probably come up with, and I trust you, and please don't take this the wrong way.
Not at all.
I applaud, I know how hard this is to do an RFP process, and this of all things, because it's so subjective. Wonderful job, but I can't do 50,000 on.
No, like we said, this came back as a surprise to us as to what we were trying to reach for and trying to really accomplish. So we were just taking to heart what we all want to see. So.
And I'm with you there.
Yes.
Okay, Councilman Brown?
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to put a cap of $35,000 on the Christmas lights, and I would like to put the light show from Saguaro to Verde River Drive, opposed to stretching it the 4 blocks.
Okay.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Okay, council
Discussion.
discussion?
Can I just have Town Manager Grady explain where the money would come from if this was allocated? My understanding, it's the downtown fund, which you can only use that money for certain things, and there's $1 million in the account right now?
Yeah, it's slightly over $1 million. This is coming, and it's been funded in the past out of the downtown fund directly. The downtown fund is basically receives an appropriation of about, I think 20% of 1%. I'm sorry, 20% of a tenth of a percent. So it takes probably, it probably receives about $75,000 a year into that fund, just in new revenues every year. So what we were proposing tonight was just the transfer of the additional funding that this was over. But we read the council loud and clear on this. And I think you've given us some options here for us to consider. Our biggest concern is we need to move forward on a contract, and we can't delay that part of it.
Okay, Councilman
well-
Leger? Councilman Leger?
Thank you,
have
Mayor.
something?
I appreciate that. Dennis, rather than compressing the joy, I thought that was clever, compressing the joy. So there's still joy, but it's just compressed. Before we get locked into compressing the joy, what I'd like for you to be able to do is kind of go back to the vendor a la carte, stick and come back to us in terms of what you can do for $35 grand, rather than, compressing the joy ahead of time.
And have us by tomorrow.
And if there's a possibility of doing that and extending the joy, and I think we've upped it to 35 grand, and based on inflation, that's where I was trying to go with Councilman Yates. Obviously, 5 years ago, things have increased. So just food for thought that I appreciate what you're saying, and I could support that, but prior to that, I would like to know what we could get for 35 grand.
I think, not speaking for Councilman Brown, but I think the idea of the motion was so that we could lock this in, since the next time we'll be meeting is 2 weeks from now. So that was the idea.
Move to a contract, 35,000.
So we can move to a contract of, do you want to amend that just to
35,000.
to 35,000?
That's what I said.
Yeah,
I'll second that.
okay.
That was a motion already on the floor. We were in discussion
He
as it
received
is.
his motion.
Without,
So we're in discussion still? Can you just,
Yeah.
can I, Mayor, can you just explain just one more time?
Sure.
What the money in this fund can be used for? What on a yearly basis is already funded? Okay, so if we're sitting on $1 million and we're talking about $16,000 difference, I can appreciate Councilman Magazine, I can appreciate everyone talking about being fiscally conservative, but if this money isn't able to be used for a redistribution to streets or to other areas that obviously we need to deal with the finances of the town, explain what you can do with this money.
Sure. The funding, or the downtown fund, basically can be used for projects in the downtown. It has basically the avenue improvements, the linear park that was put in, it came out of that fund. When we had proposed the access to the park project that was in the CIP for around almost $1 million last year, that got rejected, it was coming out of that same fund. It could be used for improvements in the downtown. This has been, over the last 5 years, it's funded to $30,000 a year for the holiday lighting. So I hope I answered your question, but it can be used pretty much however the council determines they want to use that money.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, if I may.
Councilman Leger?
If you take a close look at the budget, you'll see that the Downtown Development Strategy Fund is also used to fund economic development. And we've taken money out of there over the years to enhance our economic development program. And as the town manager mentioned, when you look at the definition, we've had this conversation, the bandwidth is it's a wide bandwidth. And there's a number of things that can be done in that whole district we refer to as downtown, sidewalk improvements. If we ever get to a situation where we need to do pavement improvement, we can use it for that. So it's not that it's locked into, it's pretty flexible. So could we clarify the motion, please?
Sure.
The motion on the floor is that we will cap the contract at $35,000, and that we would like to see what we can get for $35,000 for the full length of the avenue.
And we have a second on that. Okay, any other council discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Mayor, 7-0.
Merry Christmas.
Okay. that's
Happy
great.
holidays.
We're getting a tree.
Appropriate.
All
Oh,
right.
Phyllis, you might get the extra 15 miraculously. Christmas miracle.
I have a solution, Art. You can write a check for 15
You know, I was
grand.
thinking about it, actually, but
It'll
All right.
bounce, but he'll write
All
it.
right, Rachel,
I'll start making phone calls.
Rachel
tomorrow.
wants to go home. She's got one more.
I do have one more.
Consideration of awarding the contract C 2018-055 to Blue Core Contracting in the amount of $2,162,956.01 for the construction of the Adero Canyon Trailhead. Grady?
Yes, I'll just preface a few words or comments on this. This has been long awaited, this particular project. You know, this was identified years ago as a trailhead project, and as you're aware, Adero Canyon just began construction in that area, and the improvements probably about a year ago, this time last year. We originally budgeted $1.8 million for this this project, which was the development impact fees that were collected for this. And then about a year and a half ago, we increased the budget by another $400,000 to $2.2 million. We were shocked. The bids came back considerably higher on this project than what the estimates were, the engineers' estimates. And in order to help us get through this, we had some help from some of our talented folks, such as Councilmember Brown, and we also had Bill Meyer attend our meetings, and we were trying to see what we could do to get this, you know, under our budget. I'll go ahead and turn it over to the Community Services Director, who will go into more of the presentation on this.
Thank you, Grady. This is the culmination of a lot of effort through not only staff, but council members as well as commission members to really bring the trailhead bid process hopefully to fruition. You have in front of you the Blue Core Contracting is the low bidder on this process. The total bid amount did come in well above what we were expecting. That seems to be consistent throughout the valley for construction for the last probably 18 months. My understanding is due to our Mother Nature around the country, those prices are going to continue to climb. So through a lot of research and a lot of looking at this to value engineer every which way that we could come up with, we were able to bring some of the pricing down on a number of items, particularly some of the salvage plant material, some of the on-site efforts, as well as some of the additional landscaping amenities that we had considered. So essentially, we eliminated a number of live plant material items that were taken out. But the bulk of the process and the project is still intact. There were two adults, one being a temporary utility effort, so that we had washrooms on site until such time as we had permanent utilities. That put us above budget, so the recommendation is to not move forward with that alternate. The second was a operable gate so that we can close access to the trailhead during off hours. So that it's not a manual closure, it is on automatic. Again, that's so that we don't have staff up there twice a day trying to manage that. Just a reminder, so this is our trailhead, just so everybody's kind of familiar. Where the trailhead's located within the town limits here. If everyone's familiar with the housing development going on adjacent to the trailhead. This is the master plan for the trailhead. It provides a restroom building at this point until we can get the utilities, permanent utilities installed, parking, shade structures, a kiosk for information, as well as ADA accessibility as well. This kind of gives you an idea of where the revegetation is anticipated. And the expectation is to use what we have on site as much as possible. We had a lot of vegetation already up there, a lot of boulders and things like that, some rock cutting. So repurpose and reuse what's feasible. This is the parking layout. Again, it's ADA accessible with walkways and parking. It's a paved lot. It will provide bus drop-off, so access for schools and field trips and things like that. And then lastly, a reminder that this trailhead really is just a starting point to more than 1,000 miles of additional trail access throughout the area. So this has been a project on the books for quite a long time, and this is a big step in the direction of getting the ball rolling for some actual construction. The anticipation is that with council approval tonight, we have a 30-day window to issue the notice to proceed to Blue Corps. That'll start with a pre-construction meeting. And then once that kicks off, they have 224 days from that notice to substantial completion. That puts us roughly about mid-May for that substantial completion. And then they have another 30 days following that for final completion. So we're looking at likely a mid-June timeline. With that, I can answer any questions about this, about the project, about the bids, about the numbers.
Councilman Brown?
Thank you for your presentation. It's really difficult to put something out to bid for when every bidder knows exactly how much money we have to spend, and when the low bid comes in almost to the penny to what we have to spend, and trying to negotiate a little bit out of that was like pulling teeth, but they didn't have any teeth to pull. And what we actually did was the landscape architect had enough plantings on this 2-acre site that we questioned whether we would even be able to park a car on it after the plants started growing. So we greatly reduced the number of plants, which wasn't a huge savings, but it was a small savings. And then thanks to Bill Meyer and the staff, we worked it over as good as we could. And at the $2,162,956.01, I believe that's as good as we're going to get. And for the 10 years it's taken us to get here, I'll put the motion on the table to award the contract to Blue Corps Contract in the amount of $2,162,956.01 for the construction of a Darrell Canyon trailhead.
I'll second.
All right, motion is second. Any speaker cards? Okay, council discussion. Councilman Tolis?
So this has been on the drawing boards for a long time.
Yes.
We talk about saving $16,000 on Christmas lights.
Really?
And here we are at $2.1 million, and I'd like to know, I think this comes from the general fund, but you tell me where it's budgeted and where it's coming from?
The $1.8 million is coming from development fees that were associated with, new construction for homes and such. So the developers paid that. The balance, we had $400,000 that the council appropriated to increase basically the capital budget for this. So it's roughly was $2.2 million that's been
And the
appropriated.
development fees cannot be used. Explain exactly where the development fees.
So the development fees are collected, and under state law, we can only expend them for the purposes that they were collected. We're also under the gun that this project, the timing is very sensitive because we've held on to those fees for a number of years, and we have to basically expend them, I believe, by the end of 2020, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
So if we don't expend them, then we have to return the money back to the developers.
And the street maintenance would not be constitute development.
Absolutely not. We do not even have a development fee for streets.
Mm-hmm. So, it's going to be beautiful.
All right, anyone else?
Mayor, if I
Councilman
may,
Bourget?
just for clarity purposes, we didn't drag our feet for 10 years on this. It took 10 years to get a developer developing in there to put a road to get us where we need to go. There were several attempts over the years. This last one with MCO and the Darrell Canyon worked out well, so we're good to go, and those things happen.
All right,
Good clarification, thank you.
I have a motion and a second. Any other council discussion? If not, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mayor, 7-0.
Councilman DePorter, you still with us?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay, 7-0. Thank you, Rachel. All right, the next, discussion with possible direction to staff regarding legal services for the town of Fountain Hills.
Mayor, I'd like to put a motion on the table.
Go ahead.
I move to end the engagement agreement between the town of Fountain Hills and Gus Rosenfeld at the end of today's council meeting. The termination needs to be sent to Gus Rosenfeld in writing per the engagement agreement. I recommend the town manager go to either the league or Tim Pickering's firm to obtain interim counsel until the town council can agree on retaining another firm or hiring a full-time in-house attorney or some combination thereof.
Mayor, second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Council discussion? Any council discussion?
Yes, Mayor.
Vice
Madam-
Mayor? All right,
Go ahead, go ahead.
don't fight. Vice Mayor, we'll let the Vice Mayor go first.
First, I'd like to, as I understand the motion, it's at the conclusion of this meeting. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I'd like to ask council, could you tell us what issues you're working on or in the pipeline that you and your firm are working on at this time?
I'd be happy to, Mr. Vice Mayor. It's certainly not going to go down the entire list of everything we have pending, but the obvious key ones are what I'm going to refer to as Adaro 3. You remember in the late 90s, the Adaro Canyon Settlement Agreement was entered into. It was more than a settlement agreement. It was actually a development agreement that had an extensive amount of land use associated with it. We amended that extensively in 14. That's what I'm going to call Adaro 2. That took about 8 months to get through. And now that amended agreement is going to be terminated and split into 2 agreements so that we can handle the transition between MCO owning the remainder of Adaro, holding on to pieces of Eagle's Nest, and how Toll Brothers will have the remaining obligations running out from that. Obviously, I was the one who drafted the Adaro 2, so we've been involved in that quite heavily. Obviously, we're defending litigation from Park Place. That one is still pending. The Fire Station 2 relocation has been challenging, to say the least. We've had to be much more actively engaged because we don't really have a construction manager over that project that can help us. So we've been the ones providing the input to try and make sure that the plans and specs and things that are required of the architect actually come in a form that we can enforce so that the station is built the way it's expected to be. Mirage Heights right-of-way takeover, it was a request by the residents. We've got approximately 90 parcels in that area. It's kind of I don't even know how to describe it. It's an interesting dance of trying to wrangle in all of the parcels, get them all ready to go, get them teed up, get the deeds to the owners, get them all back in time before we have changes in ownership. Unfortunately, with that many people involved, it certainly creates some hurdles. One of our paralegals is dedicated to that. She's a title specialist, and she's trying to make sure that we keep all the cats in the basket on that. And then, just on the day-to-day list, we usually have a dozen or more things that are a list that is actively repopulated as things come and go off of it. We've got lake water quality, traffic signal tax, the agreement for buying the new ladder truck and the IGA with the city in Texas to loan them our ladder truck for a period of time to make up for what they lost in the hurricane. And it's, the short list, and it's certainly a lot longer than that.
Are you expert in all these areas? Do you handle all of these yourself?
No, I don't. We have, over the course of time working for the town, anywhere from 5 to 12, and I think last time we looked at this issue a year ago, there were 15 lawyers in my firm, lawyers or paralegals, who had done work in one capacity or another on behalf of the town. It's the advantage of having a firm of our size and experience is that we have bench depth. You know, I don't have to know copyright law because my partner Christina Noyes does. You know, I don't have to understand the bankruptcy code because we have people who do that. We have people who do litigation on behalf of the town. You've all met Mr. Verberg last week. It's, you know, that's the way that this firm represents the town.
All right,
Thank
let me-
you. I have quite a bit more. I'd be willing to wait some.
Can we get other people in here too?
Oh, sure.
All right, Councilman Yates?
Thank you, Mayor. Probably all of us on council decided to run for this position as a way to help the residents of Fountain Hills. We ran for the position in an idealistic manner, thinking that everyone is working together towards a common goal in hopes of making the quality of life in town a little better for everyone. Unfortunately, over the past several years, I have observed a pattern that our town attorney's decisions and advice have continually led to judgments and conclusions not benefiting the town. Over his tenure as town attorney, there have been many lawsuits against the town, including MCO and the landlord of the old town hall, to name a few. There's an opportunity to work with the sanitation district to help with the filtration of Fountain Lake. More recently, there have been several project development discrepancies such as Morningstar and Park Place as well. The town attorney advised the council to fight MCO on a tax issue which wound up costing Fountain Hills $625,034. The same advice was given to the council to fight the landlord of Town Hall regarding breaking their lease, which cost the town of Fountain Hills $717,774. As Fountain Lake is one of our most treasured jewels in town, the council wanted to work out a service agreement with the sanitary district in order to maintain the water quality. The town attorney took several weeks of negotiating, charged the town thousands of dollars to only report that it didn't work out. The most recent Morningstar development project had several missteps and misdirection. Although it clearly states in TCCD zoning ordinance that homes for the aged and assistant care facilities are permitted with special use permits, our town attorney, with the help from the Development Services Director at that time, would not allow this use to be accepted. They stated that the vision plan showed pictures of residential housing in the area. Consequently, tens of thousands of dollars were spent on legal fees, hearings, and zoning agreements, which made the project a residential use in a commercial district. After spending all this additional time and tax dollars against the developer, they did not even collect any impact fees. By virtue of the zoning changes, the town was now unable to collect a bed tax. Now, with regards to the $100 million Park Place development project, from the very beginning, the town attorney used his skills to delay, blame, and now potentially litigate an incredible development opportunity for the town. Most contracts should take a few revisions to find common ground on most topics. Some of us on council attended many of the contract meetings, helping the process along. The town attorney took this method of negotiation away and would act as the sole representative to report to council on the contract negotiations. This led the town attorney to make 24 revisions to the contract, costing the residents of Fountain Hills tens of thousands of dollars for this agreement when only $5,000 was charged to the developer. When it was discovered that there may have been some miscalculations with the development impact fees and that no fees were collected, instead of taking the matter to the council for review and direction, an invoice was created after the fact and sent to the developer. When the developer questioned the invoice, the town attorney steered the council to send a pay or we'll shut you down letter to the developer. During this time of potential litigation, the town attorney went to the press and made statements that implied to the residents that members of the council would potentially waive the fees. At no time did any council member ever offer waiving the fees as a solution. The articles in the news and social media inspired by the town attorney encouraged blame on the council for undermining the efforts of the town to collect the fees or siding with the developer about not paying the fees. As the court transcripts from the initial hearing states, the issue of development fees were never discussed. The transcripts will also show that the firm with the town attorney thought this case was about the assisted living development, not even Park Place. The town attorney then tried to set up an unauthorized and undisclosed meeting without the council and developer's knowledge. He unilaterally tried to negotiate directly with the finance company of the Park Place project instead of with the developer. One of the recipients of the email chain accidentally clicked reply all which made the council aware of the town attorney's intent. All of these issues now in the media, social media, and the public has caused the finance company to withdraw their interest in working with the town of Fountain Hills on Phase 2 or Phase 3 of the Park Place. It was at this point that the council took the town attorney off the Park Place negotiations. The town attorney has been telling council staff and even the general public how inexperienced and bad the developer is to work with on Park Place. Members of council spoke with a third-party inspector before an e-session to find out what his experience was with the developer. The inspector reported that the developer for Park Place is wonderful to work with. He stated he's building a high-quality, well-made project. He went on to state, realizing that this company's contract is with the town of Fountain Hills, he stated, he has worked with more difficult cities in the past, but he can't think of one right now. From 2012 to present, the town attorney and his firm fees have exceeded our budgets by 18 to 20%. We cannot afford to continue in this manner. Thank you, Mayor.
More council discussion? Councilman Brown?
Andrew, I don't have an axe to grind, not for 1 second. But after the process that we went through in the negotiations of the development agreement on Park Place, and the way that the Morningstar land deal was handled, I've lost confidence in the advice that you give the council. And I will cite one meeting that is probably fairly representative of the meetings that we had during the 24 revisions of the development agreement for Park Place. And I had been asked, because it seemed that we were not making any progress at all. Every development agreement was coming out looking about the same. We weren't making progress, and I was asked to sit in and see if I could help mediate and negotiate, even though I'm not a good negotiator, I understand. But during that meeting, we met for 2 hours, and I made a page and a half of written notes that the town, you, the developer, all agreed that could be changed in the development agreement and would make the development agreement move forward. I got ready, we got down to setting the time and the day for the very next meeting, and I excused myself because I also run a business and needed to go to work. And I wasn't even out of the building, and you had told the recorder, the person that was doing the recording and taking the minutes of the meeting, to stop taking minutes, and it just erupted. And I was told about it. The way that the language that you used was so inappropriate that they wouldn't even use the words to repeat to me. And that happened. And this isn't the first time we've talked about this. And
I disagree. I completely disagree with that.
I hate to say that. Would you like me to ask the lady that was taking the notes?
I'm happy to discuss that, and if I may, while we're addressing this, pointing to the number of drafts in a development agreement as some sort of benchmark for the quality of the agreement is a bit disingenuous for two purposes. One, at least halfway through those drafts, and everybody in this room knows, the draft we received back was a complete rewind back to the very beginning of the negotiations. A complete backward step. And if you want me to pull that document up now, I can pull that document up on my computer and read all the changes that were in that document. So it's a little disingenuous to say that. The other thing that number means nothing is whenever we make a change, we don't hide it from the other side. If it's 5 words, we make a new draft, redline it, and send it back to them so they can see what we're doing. So I have to take issue with that one piece. Part 2, and Councilmember Yates and Councilmember Brown, you need to hearken back to May of the year that Morningstar was approved. When we were in the mayor's office trying to decide how it could be that this project could get unstuck. And Only one person in the room had a solution for that. That was me. We had a PAD ordinance that required too big of a site. I recommended we modify the PAD ordinance to make the site requirements smaller so that that project could move forward. Recommended a general plan amendment that could be done to fix all of the concerns that were being raised. Those two things happened 3.5 weeks later on a council meeting. That is not only problem solving, that's remarkable speed to get it done after that. So if it were true that I was gunning for this project for some reason, I could have let it die then, and I didn't. Just to keep that in perspective. The other piece of this is it makes absolutely no sense, from my perspective, for me to have a personal bias against a developer that I know is supported by members of the council. It just makes no economic sense for me
Mayor, Andrew,
to
now
take
you're being
myself.
disingenuous. You're being very disingenuous. Go ahead.
Why would I place the economic interest of myself and my firm out there, knowing what risk it put me in, if the decisions that we were making were not decisions that were made on behalf of the town? The other allegation, and I mean the list is long, so I'm not even quite sure where to go with it. MCO, the lawsuit over the taxes, that originated before I was even in charge of the town attorney services. So I'm not quite sure how that makes the list. The lease for the old building, I can't tell you in this public setting what my recommendation was to council. So you've misstated something because that's not the recommendation that was given. Those things notwithstanding, cities and towns get sued. That's what happens. You have people who want to bring lawsuits. We defend the lawsuits. Like we did in the Park Place most recent one. We defended it. We defeated the TRO and the preliminary injunction. We did our job. And it's professionally insulting to have a comment that's basically says I would put my personal interest in front of both my oath of office to this town and my obligation to the bar to provide you competent and ethical counsel. I mean, that really is. I mean, the statement that I have some sort of axe to grind with the developer is an indictment of my professionalism to begin with. I am in a position where this town's interest is all that I have in my scope. That's the only thing that I need to worry about is what is in the town's best interest, not is what is in a particular developer's best interest. So when we go into a negotiation, I'm there as representative of the town, not the individual developer. And so I'm happy to answer questions. I'm happy to provide you with whatever information you need. But when you compare the cost of your legal services to the costs of other municipalities of your size, 18% sounds like a big grand number until you compare it to your neighbors. I mean, your legal services have been well below $300,000 per year for a long time, while your peer cities have gone up by significant amounts.
We don't have a lot of those figures yet, so Councilman Brown, did you want to?
We have them from a year ago.
I didn't get all the figures that I needed to discuss that.
Excuse me, I'd like to back the land deal up just a little bit, because when they first brought the projects to us, Morningstar and Park Place, somehow it was all joined together under one hat, and it was going to be built under one development agreement. And I was the one that said, how in the world can that be? We've got the land that's owned by one person, granted, and we've got a lender, but we've got two separate owners. The two projects were two separate owners. And that took, 3 months? 3 months to work its way around where you had the ability to make your recommendation. Did it not take about three and a half months?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Brown, if you'll recall, the gap in time across the summer was on the developer's side. I mean, our email trail is very clear that we did our work, sent it out, and we're looking for feedback, and did not get feedback for a long period of time. So I'm happy to own any kind of time periods it took us to do our work, but again, understanding the heightened sensitivity that this had with members of the council, we were making sure we were cranking it out as quickly as we could on our side to make sure that we were meeting our clients' requirements.
Mayor?
Vice Mayor.
Let me start by saying that, with all due respect to my colleague, Mr. Yates, I heard a lot of what I consider misstatements of fact. Having said that, the last time this came up, we talked, it looked like there was sentiment to have an in-house attorney. And our expenditures rank in the bottom third of the towns and cities in the valley.
We don't have any of those figures, Vice Mayor.
They were all presented to us.
I don't have any of those figures. They're not in the packet.
They were presented to us the last time we discussed this as part of a package.
I don't have those figures.
Well, I'd like to go on. I'd like to go on if I may. You can dispute them all you want, but I'd like to go on.
I'm not disputing them. I'm just saying that I was trying to get an update on all the figures, and I wasn't able to get that as of today.
Okay, well, let me, if I could. The 5-year average that we've paid, which is in emails we've received this week, was $285,000. Other cities and towns range from $306,000 to $579,000. 7 out of 8 of them have inside attorneys. Those figures don't include consultants who are specialists in the areas that Andrew's firm works on. Doesn't include assistants that need to be hired for attorneys. What we get for our expenditure is what Andrew laid out. Now, I went online and looked at attorney salaries in Arizona, and they're ranked 1 through 4. And it's clear from the definitions, and anybody can look this up, that an attorney 4, only an attorney 4, would have the qualifications that this town would have in that office. I want to go on, though, to another subject that we've been talking about. The reason we're discussing this has nothing to do with cost. The last time this was discussed, there were several members of the council that made it sound like the whole issue was cost. In fact, at one point, I said to council, I think there's much more to this than cost. I think there are people sitting here who have problems with Andrew's performance. I'd like to hear from each one of them. Every member of council, as we went around, said, oh no, I think he's doing a good job. It's all a cost issue. It's never been a cost issue. I think Andrew has served with distinction and has worked tirelessly in the best interest of this town. But I do think it's a legitimate area of discussion. My career spans nearly 50 years, including 3 stints as a CEO of organizations in Washington, D.C. I have never, ever once heard of a dismissal without a performance appraisal. We have never, to my knowledge, now I've only been here 2 years, never to my knowledge has there ever been any kind of formal performance appraisal. No opportunity for Andrew to hear the concerns of members, let alone a chance to respond. This, tonight, I think is the first time, I suspect, that he's heard a lot of this, and here we are in public, and he's trying to respond as best he can, but this is not the forum for it. This is not the way you do it. If this is dismissal for cause, I'd like to know what the cause is. I think he'd like to know what the cause is. Seems to me that common decency dictates that we give him an opportunity to hear even one-on-one from members of the council and respond. He's already responded to a number of charges this evening. My view is that we need a process, whether for Andrew or anyone else. That's called due process. And we certainly haven't had due process in this situation. It must, as far as I'm concerned, The process needs to be transparent to our citizens, and Andrew deserves no less. If this motion fails, I will be making a motion to have staff design and execute a performance appraisal within the next 120 days that gives Andrew an opportunity to hear the charges and respond to the charges. I think that's the least we can do in a situation like this. Again, I've never, ever heard of a situation where somebody is dismissed without an appraisal, without being told exactly what the problems are, and given an opportunity to respond. If, as a result of the appraisal, a majority of the council still thinks that we need to find another firm or have an in-house attorney, then so be it. That's how we operate, 4 to 3. With that, I'll yield. If the motion fails, then the motion I indicated will be put on the floor.
Oh, no. If there's any more of that, I'll have you removed from the room.
Madam Mayor.
And we clearly made that specific at the last meeting, and all of you people are not new to town, so there's no clapping except to congratulate our staff. Okay,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I had actually most of the notes that Councilman Yates has already said, because through long history with the town, my husband being on the council, being very close with former members of the council, and former mayors, I was aware of a lot of these situations. But just recent situations that happened, council makes policy. The attorney doesn't make policy. The attorney doesn't organize a secret meeting without telling us, and we find out accidentally through an email exchange, and then we're told after the fact that he's negotiating around our back with the financial backer for the development. I mean, that's unheard of. The council directed clearly to the attorney to do, and to Grady to do certain things. If those things you're not able to do, then you have to come back and ask the council again, okay, that didn't work out, or this is what happened. Now where's our direction? You don't just do this on your own, okay? And this has been some of the complaints in the past about the attorney. Also, while we were trying to work out this situation of the development fees and everything, wanting to, in any way we could, I'm not saying we didn't want to get the development fees, but to examine the whole situation, while we had directed our staff to try and negotiate, try and work this out, and let's see where we are, our town attorney is going to the police asking, how do we shut them down? Our attorney is going to the criminal prosecutor and asking, what if I revoke their permit? Where do we stand then? You know, that to me, that's not looking in the right direction. That's not looking in the direction where we sent you. We sent you to try to negotiate and figure this out and avoid litigation, and here you're looking in the directions of litigation, always in the direction of litigation. When this whole project first started with Morningstar and Park Place, I remember I was sitting in the very first meetings. And the very first thing I said to the developer was, as far as Park Place goes, is if you add commercial into this, I'll consider it. But yet then I hear from various people that the attorney is going around saying that the mayor is against this project. And that was absolutely not true. Why he said that, I don't know, but I questioned him about it at the time. Then I also subsequently found out that our attorney was communicating with a former member of this council who was opposed to some of the things that we were doing. And again, I questioned him, whose attorney are you? And he said, well, she's a friend. And I said, well, that doesn't matter. If you're our attorney, you're not supposed to be discussing our issues with somebody else. I don't think that ever happened again, to my knowledge, but that was another incident. So I guess, you know, we're not talking about a surprise. We're talking about a long history of continuous issues that come up that we look at, and if you isolate one issue, you say, well, maybe that could have happened, or, well, we worked that out, so it's not going to happen again. But when you put all this together, you say this is years of issues that, up to this point, it's very hard for me to have confidence and trust in the opinions that are coming from the attorney. And that is the most vital part of being up here, because I'm not an attorney. And when I have to call a friend in the state who's an attorney and ask his opinion, or ask another attorney in town his opinion because I'm not sure of the information I'm getting, and then I find out that I'm getting different information, I'm confused about it. You have to trust your attorney to give you not the way he thinks you should go, but that's part of it, but also all of your options, and to clearly, if he knows the direction you want to go, we have to have that information. I mean, I can't tell you how many times that I've relied on the state to give me information that I didn't feel I was getting here. I mean, there's a lot of other things. There's $80,000 of dirt that we lost up in Adero Canyon for the trailhead because the attorney said we couldn't take the dirt because you don't know where the dirt came from. The dirt came from the same spot. We could have just gotten the dirt, saved $80,000, and instead we had to work out some other deal, so we got the dirt eventually. So, I mean, we could just go on and on with all of these issues, but, you know, I think bottom line comes down to confidence and trust, which I'm sorry, I just don't have anymore. And now, any other comments? Councilman Brown?
To continue on with the development agreement process, shortly after Park Place development took forever to do, came along Americana and Copper Wind. And both of those were completed before the council even knew about it. And, I mean, there was no ruffling of the feathers. Americana got more height, got more density, and there was no complaining. So, I mean, you know, we didn't poke them every time they asked for something. We just took care of it. You took care of it. And I would like to point out to the town that the town of Fountain Hills has the worst reputation in the valley for developers. There's not a town in the valley that carries a worse reputation. I have a client that I'm just finishing a house for that told me the story that he was coming to Fountain Hills at the airport, checking into a car, and the lady said, well, where are you going? Do you need a map? No, we're going out to Fountain Hills. We're going to build a house out there. And the lady that rented the car to him said, oh, you don't want to do that. That's the hardest place in Arizona to build. Now, he told me this story just for no reason. But we have a bad reputation because of what we do to the developers that come to town, MCO. Of course, I knew Hank Lickman, and I knew, that was probably before your time, and I knew Greg Bielli, and I know Jeremy Hall, and the problems that they had with the town of Fountain Hills are endless. And of course, the development world is a very, very small world, and it's really a shame that we have to have such a black eye over the way we treat the developers that come to town. Now, keep in mind that this dirt that's set over here on the south side of the avenue for 50 years, we've had several developers come to town and take a swing at it. And each one of the developers that came to town didn't have the money. They had to sell a junk bond, or they were hoping they could find the money but not one of the developers had the money. And here we have a developer that's coming to town, a reputable developer that has the financing 100% in line to do the entire project. And all we can do is poke him. No, we don't want to do that, poke. So, you know, take it for what it's worth. I've studied it very carefully. Andrew is, I do not have an axe to grind with Andrew, but I do have an axe to grind with the way that we advise the developers and treat the developers in this town.
You have speaker cards?
Yes, Mayor, we have two. Robert Wilson, followed by Michael Arshamo.
I don't know where to start. I'm Bob Wilson. I'm a resident of Fountain Hills. I love this town, but I don't love the direction it's going. This is a kangaroo court. The man deserves just simple decency to be allowed to defend himself and not do this in a public forum. This is outrageous. You know, this isn't part of my discussion that I wrote down. I'm not expecting this to deteriorate to that point. And to me, it's very clear, based on what happened last year with Andrew, that this is a personal vendetta. And
I hope you have something to back that up, because you're making some very serious accusations.
I didn't say by whom.
Well, you're
Okay,
looking right
let me
at
just
us.
get to what hopefully will make a difference here today, because this has to be done.
And just so
I'm
you know,
I'm shaking, I can't
this-
believe it. Here's the deal, that at the court meeting on September 7th, with the unpaid development fees, where the town is the defendant, the attorney for Park Place told the court, Kavanaugh, Yates, and Brown were on the development agreement negotiating team, and if called to testify, they will confirm his client's contention that the absence of a specific requirement in the development agreement was consistent with the town's intentions not to change the development fees. Now, this is the man's attorney. I don't think he's going to make that kind of stuff up. So I don't think this is a coincidence that the people who put this in, the 3 council members, or the mayor and 2 council members put this in, are the same people that were referred to by the developer's attorney. And this developer is supposed to be such a really good developer. So this is not a coincidence. I thought maybe it was possibly a coincidence. It is not a coincidence that that statement was made by the developer's attorney. And he mentioned 3 specific people, and the same 3 specific people, after a couple of sessions, private sessions with the council, have come up with this, that they're going to get rid of Andrew Maguire because he's getting in the way of this. That's all I have. This is disgusting. It really is.
Madam Mayor, may I
Thank
address
you.
it? Madam Mayor, I have a copy of the transcripts. I have a letter from the attorney to the developer, because when this was reported to council that our names were brought up in support in any way, shape, or form, I called the attorney because I was a little upset, because I sat in a lot of those meetings, and at no time did we ever. He was shocked. His letter to me: Dear Councilman Yates, we write in response to concerns my client had been hearing regarding the Park Place Phase 1 project. More particularly, we have heard that there are rumors that NSHA or its council took the position in a hearing in the Maricopa County Superior Court that the mayor and certain council members agreed to waive development fees when the terms of the development agreement were being negotiated. We can assure you that no such representations were made. Attached hereto is a rough transcript from the hearing in question. As you will see, at no time did NSHA or its council suggest that the mayor council members agreed to waive the development fee. I have a copy of the transcripts as well. If that section was unclear, if you go on, the attorney for the developer goes on to say they're not in the development agreement. I sat in those meetings myself. I was with Bart Shea, I was with the council members, and we know that those fees are not part of this agreement. That was it. It's being twisted to act like the 3 of us were somehow in cahoots or somehow wanted to waive. It was never discussed. And I'm a little upset, me personally, but for everyone on council, at how things are getting twisted out there and making see. I fight for this developer no different than I would fight for any developer that comes to town to make sure that they're treated fairly. You talk about common decency, truthful. Likewise, I've been lied to directly by this man several times. And like the mayor, I've had to use my own resources. Thank goodness I'm in commercial real estate. And as a favor, I have asked general contractors, real estate attorneys. It's disheartening to go into any kind of meeting and wonder if I'm getting the right advice. And with what's going on out there, it's telling me we're not getting the right advice. Because you all are getting the wrong information. That's not what's going on. The third-party inspector who has no axe to grind at all is telling us he's not the problem, we're the problem. His contract is with the town. He's fearful of telling us that just for those reasons because he's afraid of not getting a job again. Imagine if you hired an attorney and you couldn't trust him, no matter what the price. I'm sorry if I seem a little angry, folks, but this has been going on for a while. And yes, looking at costs, there are ways to save money. We've all looked into this. But at the end of the day, no matter what the budget is, if we have a budget that we can meet or beat with taking this in-house and going somewhere else and being able to trust the attorney, I'm going to go that direction.
Okay, I'm going to go to Councilman Brown. Sir, would you mind taking a seat if you're... Thank you.
I would like to address the kangaroo court comment. If we were to do this in an e-session and not do it in a public forum, the public would never know both sides of the story because we wouldn't be able to talk about it. And that's part of what the problem is today, is that we've had e-sessions and we can't talk about it. And I'm sure that you read the social media and you see the way it's twisted. But part of why we're doing this is so the public, the general public, can hear both sides of this story. And once again, I don't have an axe to grind with Andrew McGuire. I've worked with Andrew on his own personal residence and have no problem, but I do have a lack of confidence in the advice that he's giving the council, and I'll just leave it at that.
Do you have another speaker? Thank you.
Mike Archambault.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor. Mike Archambault, 45-year resident of Fountain Hills. So let's call this agenda what it is. A ruse to rid yourselves of a town attorney who is standing in your way to let the Park Place development go without paying their fees that they owe to the town. Yeah. On August 7th, and I have the court transcripts. On August 7th, at a hearing in court, open court, David Lund, attorney for Park Place, said Kavanaugh, Yates, and Brown will testify that they side with the developer and no fees are owed. If true, this places you in conflict of interest with the positions that you have taken by the town, which positions that have been taken by the town in the negotiating letters from the town manager sent to the Park Place developer and in court filings on behalf of the town. This statement is so powerful that you, Mayor, Councilman Brown, and Councilman Yates must recuse yourselves from these discussions to avoid any bias towards the town. If you do not, I guarantee you there will be consequences. This is serious. And I urge the remaining town council members to take appropriate action, including 1, investigating the conflicts by Kavanaugh, Yates, and Brown, if necessary. This should, excuse me, Mayor, I'm talking. This should include hiring an independent attorney or a retired judicial officer to conduct the necessary inquiries. And number 2, asking the Attorney General to investigate this matter. At the very least, there is a strong appearance of impropriety and conflicts of interest in violation of the town's ethics code. This smells, and you 3 know it. I will not allow you to continue to damage this town with your shenanigans. You will be exposed at every turn, and I promise you that. So, you show us that you can do the right thing and protect the citizens of this town. Abandon the self-serving effort to replace the town attorney and recuse yourselves from any further deliberations on the Park Place litigation. Thank you, Mayor.
Everybody comes up here with a lot of these accusations. People write letters to the editor with accusations about us. There's not one person that's ever come up with any kind of proof that anybody has done anything. And I've said, go ahead, go to the Attorney General and file. Show your proof. The paper will print any letter that anybody puts out there. Where's the proof? I want to see it so I can defend my, excuse me.
Stop it.
You're done. I want to see the proof. Show me the proof, then I can defend myself. I can't defend myself against wild accusations. I can't, okay? So, Councilman Leger?
You done?
I just called on you, Councilman Leger.
Yes, you're done. Appreciate it. Let me read something from the court transcript. The court, that would be the judge, says, well, the town says that the development fees are owed as a matter of law, that there was no reason to discuss them in the negotiations because it was given that they were going to have to be paid as a matter of law. It's very basic. Mr. Lunn is Shay Conley, attorney. Mr. Lunn, this is the transcript. Well, I understand that the attorney is saying that now, referring to the judge's statement. I can guarantee, Mr. Lunn, this is the transcript from the court, I can guarantee you when I have Mayor Kavanaugh, Councilman Yates, and Councilman Brown on the stand, they're going to testify otherwise. This is from the transcript. So
Read the next line, Councilman.
There's a lot more. Read the next line.
they had never understood that development fees were issued.
Thank you.
There you go. That explains it.
How does that explain it?
It was never brought up. It was never discussed. You guys are twisting this, and respectfully, Mike Archambault saying that we are taking bribes in social media, how dare you? I didn't say that. Yes, you did. What? Okay. Now I don't want this to get out of control.
All right, I think I'm just going to call, we have no more speaker cards?
Mayor,
I'm going to call the question.
Mayor,
I'm going to call, we have a motion.
I read the transcript. Now I have some,
That's right.
I make some comments to make regarding this, whatever this is, okay?
All right, this will be the last comment, okay, everybody? And then we'll vote.
Mayor, I do have a.
Count.
If it's my job that's on the line, I would like to respond to some of those things after Councilman Leger.
Councilman Leger?
Let the attorney respond
Well, I think
first.
Councilman DePorter also wants to.
Yeah, well,
Councilman DePorter?
I'll defer to the town manager, and then I'll speak after that.
Councilman DePorter?
Sure, Mayor. So I'm sitting in my hotel room and sick to my stomach, like listening to all this.
Can you speak up a little bit? We can't hear you.
Sure. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you hear me better now? I'm sitting in my room and I'm sort of disgusted with this whole the whole thing. I mean, this so disappointing to see. Everyone writes their own narrative about however they want to see things. I did write something in the plane. Hold on, please. Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I wrote this on the plane. My thoughts are this, and the people could think of it however they want. We're all busy people. I'm not in anyone's camp. I don't care what anyone thinks about what I'm going to say next, but this is how I truly feel. I actually believe that for the price that we pay, that I'm not saying we could save money, but I think we could benefit from having something in-house. I work with solely lawyers in my office that I work in for the past 4 years. The idea of an in-house counsel is having someone embedded into the culture, into the fabric of your town. It helps provide that safety net, that trust, and build those relationships to get things done. I know that the cost analysis shows that we're getting comparable rates to other municipalities, but I got to tell you, I can't help but think we're going to be better. We could be better suited, and maybe a study would show that, with a full-time employee that sits in town hall 4 days a week, just like everybody else, so that someone can stop by and ask a question and not worry about, you know, the billing hours that it's going to go through. With all that being said, I also have the human. Something resonated with me when people talked about the human side, and I think that's what's happening tonight, where people are going to have a dialogue and can go back and forth. I just don't know if the timing's completely right on tonight. There's a lot of drama going on in town, whether it be legal or otherwise. And I'll tell you right now, I'm somewhere in between, because I feel like a change is needed. I do think a change is needed, but I don't know if tonight is the night to do it, because of how much other just crap we have going on in town. That's all I really have to say. And you know, I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm pro change. I think it's something that could be very important. And my personal feelings are that, you know, I'd be hard pressed to not imagine and seen evidence that, you know, some of the things, sometimes personalities and conflicts get in the way of our jobs, but we can't let it happen. I just want to make sure that where we're being represented, it's with the utmost professionalism, and I think it has been, but I also think there's been some missteps in that area. So I don't know how I'm going to end up siding tonight on actually ending it tonight, because I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it should happen probably just tonight, because I'd like to know that we have some sort of safety net with our legal protections to see the other things through. That's all. I'm done.
All right, Councilman Leger? Well, I'd like to hear from the council first, and then we'll finish with the attorney.
I have, I have a whole presentation here that I could go through, but I'm not going to. I find the what is important as we evaluate whether we should keep the town attorney or not. How we're going about this is, to me, I've been on council for 11 years. This is the lowest point I have experienced as a council member. I have worked with this gentleman longer than anybody in this room, and I have absolute trust in his abilities to do what he has done. Andrew has always said, in just about every meeting I've been in, just give me direction. These are options. So let me turn that around. He's not responsible for this litany of issues that everyone's talking to. We are. We are the decision makers. We are the people that vote. You don't like the development agreement after 20 renditions? Well, we can't talk about what occurred in an e-session, but at the end of the day, after we discussed different alternatives and options, he crafted a document that was given to us, and if you voted on it, you were in agreement with it. So we own the decision. He is our legal counsel. And I never feel like I have been misinformed in 11 years. And if I had a question regarding any of these things that are being accused of the town attorney, man to man, I get on the phone and I would talk to him, ask him a question. I've also worked in corporate environments as a corporate consultant for over 30 years. This is outrageous. You need to sit down and give somebody feedback. But at the end of the day, we have to own, previous councils have to own things that have occurred, because at the end of the day, they, you, I have made those decisions. There's just a lot of missing pieces going on. I'm not going to say who's right or who's wrong. As I've stated, I have trust in our town attorney. He has always acted to me in the best interest of the town. And one thing he has demonstrated to me he knows who the client is. He knows who the client is, and it's the town of Fountain Hills. And he has never once spoken unprofessionally or in a negative way about anyone over here. He has been very professional in his approach. And just one last thing that I wanted to go through. There's a lot of stuff that a town attorney does, a tremendous amount. What Andrew brings to the table is institutional knowledge. You can't put a value on institutional knowledge. He brings to the table intellectual capital. We have an organization right now that is new, a lot of young folks. We have a lot of folks in our organization that don't have as much experience as people in the past have. Therefore, they lean on a town attorney for many, many things. I have never heard in 11 years from a staff person or a town manager that they didn't trust the town attorney. In my experience, I haven't. Here's just a quick list of what a town attorney does, and we're talking about litigation. He's not a litigator, he's a town attorney. When we hire Andrew, we get the assets, if you may, of his firm. There's folks up here on the dais that have always favored MCSO, contracting with MCSO. Why? Because they bring tremendous assets to the table that we could in any way get with one in-house attorney. Here's just a quick sample of what a town attorney does, and this is not a complete list, so bear with me. Drafting ordinances and resolutions, drafting and negotiating contracts, reviewing agendas and minutes, review of documents generated by town staff, procurement, bond borrow and issuance, election law, cable and franchise law, public bidding and contracts, personnel and employee-related issues, improvement in community facilities districts, attendance and compliance review of town council and other members and boards and commissions, planning and zoning, property law, code enforcement, development agreements, environmental law, water law, annexation, intergovernmental agreements, wireless telecommunications, employee benefits, general municipal, state, and federal law, representation of town before administration boards, and more and more and more. So let me just end by saying this has been the lowest point in serving council. And it's not the what. I think it needs to be a discussion about all of this, not in this forum. It's the how we're going through this particular process. And I end by saying it's been a privilege and honor to work with this attorney longer than anyone on this dais. And if you were to survey staff, current and past, I think you'd get basically the same opinion. And I'm going to close by saying this. It is our responsibility when things go wrong, not the town attorney's responsibility, because he always ends with options. Direct me. Tell me what you want me to do as early as our last E-session. And he did that, and that's what he's done historically. So thank you, Mayor. If you want to call a question now, feel free.
Andrew wanted to have something to say.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. There are a couple of things that I want to make sure we're clear on the record. It is, because it's not attorney-client privileged, it was discussions I had with someone outside the organization. I want to be very, very clear. When, out of the blue, I get an email from RCS, the partner on this project, and I have at the same time an email from my secretary saying, Ms. Straley called you, she seems anxious to talk to you. I get an email from Ms. Straley saying, do you have some time to talk? I respond saying, sure, I've got a break between 2 and 2:45 when I drive to ASU to teach my class. 1:30 in the afternoon, I get an email from her, are you going to call me today? I send her back an email, Sherry, it's only 1:30 here, I'll call you when I get on the phone. That's an anxious person calling me out of the blue. When she asked me, why haven't you guys called us to talk about the litigation that's ongoing? And I told her point blank, the last time you and I had direct contact, I caught holy hell from the council for having any kind of discussions with you. She said, well, let me be clear about this. From, as she put it, her words, the property owner, you have the authority to call me directly if you have an issue. I said, fine, what can we talk about? She said, we want to come down and meet with you guys. We want to figure out what we owe you and get you paid. Now, from my perspective, there is no outside the bounds of what we are directed to do other than get the development fees paid. That was the primary goal that made all the rest of this not a problem. And when I have someone call me out of the blue and say that, and say, we'd like to come down next week, and I said, well, you know, I'm not in town hall other than on Tuesdays, and she said, well, quite frankly, I'm not going to be there. I don't think any legal counsel should be there. We just want our finance people to talk to your finance people. I said, great. But keep in mind, we're in litigation right now, active litigation with NCHA. So, you know, I'm concerned about having conversations outside of the lawyers when we're in active litigation. She said, okay, I understand. They made the determination to not include Bart Shea in those discussions. That's not my determination. That's their determination. That was transmitted back to me. I said, great. I'm not going to have any part of this. I'm, to myself, driving to my class thinking, this is fantastic. I'm not going to be involved in this thing. I don't have to be anywhere near this thing because every time I touch it, I get holy hell from council members. So that is where that conversation went. The fact that then Mr. Hazard copied the entire council on a response and that blew everything up does not change the fact that my actions were specifically for the benefit of the town of getting the fees paid. If someone calls you and says, we want to get you paid, why on earth do you not facilitate that conversation? And I am still puzzled as to how that's not in the town's interest to get the fees paid.
I can answer that. It's because I was at town hall all day, and somebody could have picked up the phone and said, you know, this is going on, but nobody said anything, and then a meeting was set up for that Monday without anybody telling us, and let's not have anybody else in this meeting. This is
And
just...
Madam Mayor, how is that, when I hand that
Because-
thing off, how does that come back to me as a problem?
It comes back to you because...
Because I answered my phone.
No, it's because you set up a meeting for that Monday with a financial backer who we had never even directed anybody to directly negotiate with. We were negotiating with the developer at the same time. You set up this meeting knowing that developer is going to be left out and don't even tell anybody on the council. That's the problem. You should have picked up the phone and told one of us. You could have told me. I was sitting there in town hall all afternoon while you were making all these phone calls, and I didn't know anything about it. The only way I knew about it was an accidental email that I was copied on, and I said, what's going on? Who knows about this meeting? And nobody on the council knew about the meeting. And then we said, we did not direct you to do this, so the meeting is canceled, and the meeting was canceled. Grady canceled it. That was my objection, not that you were talking to this other lawyer or whatever. That was not my objection, was that this meeting was set up. And that's the explanation for that. And Councilman Tolis, I was gonna call the vote. Do you wanna, you haven't said anything?
No, I haven't said anything. I wonder whether it's appropriate. I think that, you know, I have had the privilege to serve on this council since December 1st, so a lot of these issues and challenges and have happened before that. And, you know, but I have had experience in executive sessions and dealing with a lot of the challenges we have now, and I can assure the public that you have no idea what actually happens behind that closed door and what's discussed. And I can assure you that a lot of the things that you hear in these meetings are nowhere near what really is behind the scenes. And I gotta tell you, I'm extremely torn right now because I respect, I like you, you and I have had good conversation, and one of the hardest things in business is to fire someone, and that's what's happening right now. And I think it's a very difficult decision. The one, I guess, issue that has really, I think, brought us all to this discussion right now is this NSHE development fee, the social media backlash, the paper, the stories in the papers, the political pressure on this council to do the right thing and try to resolve this and solve it. I see Bart Shea here, and I know that he has had an opportunity, he's talked before. There's so many things that I'd like to hear from him, and I don't know whether this is the right forum or not, but it seems to me that this is what is causing us to have this discussion right now over everything else and all the challenges and all the issues and going back to 2003, and we're bringing up a lot of stuff here and a lot of things have changed in this town. Is it appropriate to hear from Bart Shea right now? And if so, I'd like to hear his side of the story as to why we're having this challenge with this development agreement publicly, and I'd like the people to hear it.
It's up to.
Madam Mayor, remember, even though today the town, or yesterday the town entered into a stipulation to put the litigation on hold, we're still in active litigation. That hasn't changed. So you do what you want, but I'm going to advise that having discussions about things that are currently in that litigation are, it's up to you.
Good advice. How is that good advice?
How would it hurt to hear from, I would really like to understand from the perspective of the other party why we're still dealing with this issue, and let the public understand what's really going on and try to resolve it.
Mayor?
Vice Mayor?
I'm sorry, I failed to see the relevance of getting into the weeds on the development agreement as related to the subject before us, which is whether or not to retain counsel. We did all of this regarding the development agreement has been done in executive session. All we're going to do is get into a battle up here. It's going to go on, and we're not going to resolve anything.
All right, I think we've clearly put all the issues out there, and now it's up to the council to make a decision one way or the other. I have a motion and a second, and I need a roll call vote.
Councilmember Yates?
Aye.
Councilmember Leger?
Nay.
Councilmember Brown?
Aye.
Councilmember DePorter? Councilmember DePorter?
Hello. My quick statement along before I vote is, we have a major issue in town where we have leadership that doesn't trust the advice of our attorney. It needs to be addressed. It needs to be addressed soon. But tonight, it's just too ugly, and I don't want. And my vote is no. Nay.
Councilmember Toles?
You get called on to make tough decisions, and the mayor, we have Dennis, Councilman Brown, who's been on this council, we have Councilman Yates. This is a very difficult decision, Andrew, and I would say I defer to Allen Magazine, but I suppose you're a nay, right?
This is an easy decision for me.
Yeah. So his job lies in my hands at this point, and it's a very uncomfortable situation. But Andrew, I have to go with the mayor in this call. I respect you, I like you. I can't see how we can move forward with a mayor in this town.
Point of order. We're voting.
I know we are.
Well, we don't give speeches when we vote.
He's allowed to make a statement before his vote, yes.
Okay.
A brief one. Did you want to continue, or?
So at this time, I have to defer to the mayor as the leadership in this town, and we have to,
Bev?
So that's an aye. Vice Mayor Magazine
Nay.
and Mayor Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Mayor 4-3.
Mayor? Mayor?
Next,
If I may?
we're done. We're done with that issue.
May I?
We're done with that issue.
I'm not talking about that issue specifically.
All right, well, do you want to go on to council direction?
No, I want to know what we're going to do starting tomorrow morning. Well,
May I ask law enforcement to escort the gentleman out? Okay.
Mayor, I just wanted to ask the question as to or maybe I should ask Grady, what we're going to do starting tomorrow morning with all these things.
And that could be under direction to staff. And that could be under direction to staff? Okay, so next is council direction, discussion to staff. Now,
Okay, now I'd like to ask, he may not have an answer for this, and I would understand, but
please note for the record that we're not done.
Oh, you would have loved to put in the record that I left.
No, that we're not done.
I was going to go to the bathroom.
Andrew.
Vice Mayor, you have the floor.
Andrew went through a long list of what's hanging out there, and it wasn't a complete list. And the vote indicates that we are no longer employing Andrew or his firm, and I'd like to know what we're going to do starting tomorrow morning.
it was in the motion.
It was?
in the motion.
I'm sorry, could I hear that again? What was it?
Certainly.
I-
The motion clearly states that you're giving the town manager direction to go to either the league or Tim Pickering's services, to pick up an interim attorney until the council can decide if they want to do an in-house or a
I understand.
firm or something in between.
Yeah, I lost that in all the fog.
That will give us time to work it out.
Madam Mayor,
All right? Andrew?
that's all well and good in terms of what your direction is, but I have an ethical obligation to actually conclude the matters I'm working on. So how exactly do we want to deal with all that? I mean, some obvious ones that I'll just leave in abeyance, Adaro Canyon, find somebody who's qualified to do that. But we've got a lot of contracts hanging out there that are yet undone. What is your direction on those things? Because I have an ethical obligation to not just drop them and walk away. So I need to understand where we are on those deals.
Now, I'm not attorney enough to answer that question, Andrew, but I would guess that the attorney that we would be using as an interim attorney would be able to give us some advice.
As soon as you know who that is, please let me know. I don't believe that Tim has attorneys in his stable, so I'm not sure where that person's going to come from.
Okay, we're done. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? We're adjourned.